I've been on many combat deployments. You know, in retrospect, you realize you've been lied to by a lot of stuff. The reality of the situation is you're fighting some banker's war and you're just an instrument of that system.
Nietzsche said something like, don't look too long into the abyss or it looks back into you. It's like, I'm like tired of looking into that. Ready to sort of reorient to the bright orange future more.
We're in a debt cycle that just has to be reset somehow. So the system's so broken, it's like, okay, let's start over. Let's start over. And the start over has to be how we exchange value, right?
Can we do that without like extreme carnage?
It's very difficult to orange pill somebody. It's a lot of work, and a lot of people aren't willing to put in the work, and there's no way around the work.
So what's the worst fistfight situation you've ever been in?
The worst. I moved in 7th grade to this wealthier suburb. My dad worked for the electric company in Philadelphia, so we moved from like West Philly to just the first collar county, which was a place called Sharon Hill, real hard scrabble, you know. And then we moved to a place called Havertown. And Havertown, as my dad got promoted at the electric company, we moved like to subsequently, you know, better neighborhoods. And the first day I showed up, I liked this girl, Teresa, and we were playing basketball up in the playground. And her big brother, Ralph, said, "Hey man, I want you to go, that guy said something, go pick a fight with him, a guy named Brian." And I went over and we went at it, and we were like equally matched. But I got the better of him in the top schoolyard. And then we got our breath, and then we fought down in front of the church, and he whipped my ass, man. He just beat me bad. So then we became friends after that. It was so bad, I stopped and I go, "You want to just be friends?" He's like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty good." So.
How old were you?
I was probably in 7th. I was going into 7th grade. It was a summer going into 7th grade. But I realized it was just so stupid. Like some guy told me to go pick a fight with some guy. It was ridiculous. But that's kind of, you know.
I was like, what is wrong with us boys? Like at that age, especially,
it's full of piss and vinegar and testosterone. And
I remember in high school, we used to march. There was like a grocery store beside the high school called Food Lion.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't fight on school because that's how you get suspended and all of this. So people would, at the end of the school day, if there was going to be a fight, you'd hear the rumor going around school during the day. Then there'd be this march over this little hill.
Somebody calls somebody out. Remember that?
Yeah.
Call you out. And it's like, 3 o'clock.
And then it would be
soon,
behind the food line. They're fighting behind. And we sort of go behind the food line and they just duke it out on the pavement. And it was terrible. Like,
some of the worst fights I've ever seen. All boys Catholic school. They locked the bathroom downstairs. And I remember the guy's name, Eric Traney and Eric Pappas went at it for like an hour, man, in the stall. And it was like a Fight Club type scenario. And the dean of men, who were like the disciplinaries, were banging on the door and they wouldn't let him in. And it just went, and it was crazy. But yeah, whatever.
Seems like the whole world is going this direction right now too.
It'd be nice if we can get through the fight and be like, "Hey, can we all just be friends?
Can we grow up?
Let's do this." Is that why people call you Puncher? Why do people call you Puncher?
No. So I was on X, Twitter at the time, and I got kicked off, banned for life so many times for what I was saying, whether it was about the election or about COVID or about the vax. You know, you were just deplatformed for violating whatever the rules were. And my name, Kevin Kelly, I used various variations of that, trying to get back on with new accounts. And every time I was really in it just for FinTwit and then Bitcoin. And then Puncher was a name that I just, an acronym or pseudonym that I came up with because it was one of my first Navy squadrons, the Sunday Punchers. So I put it in, and then I never got kicked off Twitter again. So that it stuck. So it's weird because in the military, everybody knew each other by call signs like Jethro Bodine, right? No one knew him by, my God, what is Jethro's first name? George. No one called him George. They all called him Jethro. And so everybody on Spaces now knows me as Puncher. So I have half my friends know me as Grace, my flying call sign. And then all my Bitcoin buddies call me Puncher because, that's it. That stuck.
Man, that's not the story I expected to hear. I heard about this bare knuckle brawling all week. This guy named Puncher's coming over. I'm like, all right.
No, I am not a fighter. But a guy that grew up in my neighborhood started BKFC.
Okay.
And literally everybody told him he couldn't get it legalized and everything else. Guy's named Dave Feldman, real entrepreneur in the fight space. He grew up in a fighting family. His dad was a promoter. And then one of my friends was the early funder of that. Basically said, hey man, can you come in and like help these guys? They have a great concept, but they don't have any business background. It's kind of like a cash incineration machine, which it was. And I just came in to try to help and said I'd be acting CEO for a couple of years to try to get it going. And that's how I got involved. And I haven't been involved since 2022 now, but they're all still my friends and they're all still grinding away at it. And
is it legal now? I mean, clearly.
It's legal in like 30 states.
Okay.
But it first got legalized in Wyoming. And the way Dave, I don't know if you guys want to talk about this, but the way he got it, he went to the commission, the sports commission in Wyoming with a Dr. Muzi, who was our doctor. And they basically just said to the guy, hey, it's less concussive. It's bloodier because you get the cuts and everything, but you get hit once, you're knocked out. Whereas in boxing in particular, you're getting hit thousands of times and not, it's just rattling your cage and it's way worse for you. So they said, look, to the commissioner, just punch that wall with this big 16-ounce glove on. He winds up and slams it. He goes, now take it off. Now punch the wall. And the guy's like, bing, like, I'm not going to break my hand. And he goes, exactly. He goes, this is just like boxing's the sweet science.
Sweet science.
This is the sweetest science, because if you go out there and try to throw these haymakers and you're going to break your hand and you're going to lose the fight, you got to be very technically sound. So these guys now are like superior technical boxers. A lot of Bitcoiners, actually. They're the sweetest people outside of the ring, but the scariest people inside of the ring. But that's their chosen profession, and they're just an eclectic group of just awesome people.
And it's bare knuckle, like just this.
It's taped up to the knuckle. So you're taped up to the knuckle, and it starts at scratch. So you start 3 feet away from each other, I think it is. And they call it the blender, man. It's just right on. It just goes, and it's 5 2-minute rounds. It can go a 6 round if in the state it's a tie or a draw. They can go to a 6 round in certain states. And the fights are over pretty quick. They usually end in a knockout, and it's a great sport. A lot of people don't like it because it's a pretty violent sport. But again, I'm not here to judge people's chosen profession. But we get a lot of MMA guys who, if you think about what the training that has to go into, say, UFC, where you got to learn every discipline and any weakness at all, you're going to lose. In bare knuckle, your training camp is a lot easier, right? You're just doing stand up. There's no elbows. You can clinch, but you can't take a guy. You can't knee, no elbows and stuff like that. So it's easier for them to train, and bare knuckle pays them more. So for them, it's like a good way to make a living.
What kind of regulatory hurdles do you have to overcome? Like, why is it an issue in so many states?
Just because it's been illegal forever, and people, actually it originated down here in South Florida. A guy named Kimbo Slice used to do it.
I remember those videos.
Kimbo from down here. Matter of fact, and Florida was one of the first states that legalized it after Wyoming. But again, it was just more of a perception. Same thing the UFC had getting legalized. Matter of fact, Dave Feldman one time met with Dana White and was very, kind of enthralled and eager to meet him. And walked up to him and said, hey, I'm Dave Feldman. I'm starting bare knuckle. And he just kind of looked at him dismissively. He says, you're never going to get that legalized, bud. They kind of blew him off. And Dave was like, oh, man. He's like, isn't that what they told you? So Dave, to his credit, has gone out and got it legal in all these states and has a great team around him and just good people. And they're still grinding away. But I think you guys will see tonight. It's a great, very exciting sport. And they do a great job. So
that's a lot. You said 5 or 6 2-minute rounds.
Yeah,
that is brutal.
It is, but it goes by. I mean, think about boxing where you have 10 rounds of 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
So it happens fast, and on any night anybody can lose.
Yeah.
And it's, but I think the health and well-being of the fighters is what Dave really cares about. Truly, he does care about the people in the organization. He considers them family, and it is less concussive. And we all know this constant pounding with all these, brain trauma manifesting itself, whether it's in football or boxing or whatever. It's terrible. So hopefully, to some extent, it's mitigated with the bare knuckle.
Yeah, it's like the protective equipment actually does you a serious disservice.
It does.
Right? Whether it's a football helmet or a boxing glove, just exposing you to that repeated trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I tell you, I boxed in college. We did 3 90-second rounds.
You're gassed.
It was the most tired I'd ever been in my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't catch my breath for 30 minutes after that.
we did it in the military. I had a box in Navy initial training. And man, by the end, you're just like, like you can't even raise your arm to do it. And the guy I fought had boxed at the Naval Academy. So I came out swinging hard, and I was gassed. And once I was gassed, it was not pretty.
Yeah.
He was just toying with me, but
Was it a cool hand Luke moment? You just kept taking it?
I mean, I think it was 3 rounds.
Yeah.
I kept taking it because, all your boys are around you and you're just like, I can't quit. I'd rather die than quit in front of all these guys. So you just kind of press on and, take your humble pie.
Yeah, we did. It was the SAE boxing tournament in Tennessee. It's kind of like this annual event. They've been doing it for, 30 years.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious because some of these guys would train seriously. They'd show up and train for months before the tournament. They'd fight.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, they're all college frat boys. They'll show up drunk, smoking cigarettes, like high on something. And watching those mismatches was like,
oh man,
hilarious.
Well, not to go on and on about bare knuckle, because I'm an investor, but I'm not involved anymore. I'm just a fan now. But the early guys, to get that level of boxer, we were getting guys who were like bouncers and stuff, and throwing these big, huge haymakers. Big fat guy will come in, and that now you look at how it's evolved. These are world class athletes. These are guys you would know, like Mike Perry from the UFC, Iron Mike Perry, and other guys who were just so technically awesome. Eddie Alvarez. It's just worlds away from what it started out as. Now everybody in there is a pro, and it's kind of cool to see the evolution of what Dave has created.
If it goes to the ground, what do? They stand them up?
Yeah, just like boxing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You can't hit a guy when he's down, all that kind of stuff. So
got it.
It's they got the rules pretty tight.
Yeah.
And sometimes these fights are over and you don't even see the guy get hit. Like, what just happened? The guy's on the ground. And then they slow it down. You're like, oh, like they're that fast. You don't even see that, that strike.
So no kicking.
No kicking. Nope. Just boxing. And early when boxers came in who thought they were going to just tune these guys up, who were well-rounded MMA guys, what they couldn't figure out, these boxers, was once the guy got them in the clinch, they're looking to the referee to stop the fight and break it up. It's like, no. He's got you, and you got to figure this out.
So you can grab
clinch,
the neck and you can clinch.
Muay Thai clinch, and then so.
Right.
Now the boxers have all figured it out, but in the early days, we knew we'd have some great boxer coming in with a great record, and we're like, that guy's going to lose because he has no idea what's coming. And he thinks he's got some patsy walking in, and this guy gets him in that clinch, fights through the initial flurry, gets him in the clinch, and then it's over. So.
It's probably like that and wrestling are the oldest sports, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Just dudes trying to kill each other.
Well, wrestling is one, like in UFC, if you have a great wrestler, that's like the best baseline to come from, because you get a guy on the ground, start stretching him out.
Yeah.
He can't get out of it. You know? So.
And the conditioning is
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Did you wrestle at all?
Yeah. In middle school, it was brutal.
Yeah. Those practices, I didn't wrestle, but my family, my extended family were all wrestlers, my nephews.
Yeah.
And it's just an unbelievable amount of conditioning.
Yeah, I didn't wrestle at that high of a level, but the guys in my school that did, I would always run up and down the hallways in garbage bags and stuff, cutting weight. And
spitting in all day long.
Yeah, spitting in cups.
There was another fight, I won't get into the details, in high school where it was a bunch of guys, and I grabbed the guy and I tried to do like a judo toss and stuff, and the guy didn't move. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh no. This is going to be, it ended up being nothing, but usually they go down, and this guy wasn't going anywhere. I was like, oh man, I'm in big trouble here.
Yeah, dude. Men and testosterone, we have problems. And it happened a lot when I was young, but then it didn't stop in college either. Like, there was still kind of this gang warfare thing beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And
bars and stuff.
Bar fights.
East Coast. I moved in the military, moved west of the Mississippi, I never saw a bar fight. Whereas, you know, in New Jersey, in the summertime down the Jersey Shore, it inevitably turns into a punch palace at 2 a.m. Right? For whatever reason. Somebody hitting on somebody's girl or knock somebody's hat off or whatever. So it's weird. It's like, I don't know, you're from California. Did you ever see a bar fight in California?
A few times, yeah. But, you know, I didn't do a whole lot of the drinking, rowdy stuff. I mean, I developed an affinity for weed, which is kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. Hey, let's all just smoke a doobie and talk about life, you know, as opposed to getting slammed and beating the shit out of each other, you know?
Yeah. I don't want anybody to think I'm like this knucklehead. I you know, got in a hand. I think I'm 11, 4-1 lifetime. Not that I'm counting.
You were in the Air Force. Did you?
Navy first, then Air Force.
Did you see any combat?
Yeah. I've been on many combat deployments, which is, you know, in retrospect, you realize you've been lied to by a lot of stuff. You know, Preston Pish can tell you the same thing. A lot of my good buddies and my class of kind of guys who got in the military are now at the top ranks. One of my friends is the commander of the Indo-Pacific. He was my flight instructor. He's from my hometown. Raisin Kane, Dan Kane, is now the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, buddy of mine. So these guys are all at the top of the food chain now. And that would have been if I had stayed in and been able to advance. Those guys are now senior guys. One of them is a big Bitcoiner in the Indo-Pacific. So Admiral Paparo. Matter of fact, Jason Lowry works for him now.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Jason was in a bad spot. I don't know. I can't talk about it too much, but he was, because of the book and things, he was in kind of a command that was ascribing bad intentions to him
for writing the book.
Was against, well, all about Bitcoin, and I can't get into the details, but we made sure that he transferred out of that command, and now he's with my buddy who is being orange pilled by Jason, Jeff Booth, and others.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's very heartening to see people in the armed services taking to Bitcoin, because it is an answer to a lot of, I'm sure you've seen a lot of it, right? Corruption and whatnot up close. And
I've seen a lot of the worst of humanity.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you think you're doing, there was some cause that, in retrospect, you find out wasn't the real cause. Mm-hmm. And that gets into just kind of the devolution of the system and the fiat system, and everybody who's not in that system miraculously gets attacked. And, you know, but when you're a young guy and you don't know any better and you're going to fight for America, and I was proud to do it. The people I served with were just the highest caliber of people. But in retrospect, you go, man, I didn't know a lot when I was younger. Yeah.
And that's that is part of the game, right? As they're trying to recruit these young men with hardcore propaganda and, you know, paychecks and promises to go all over the world and have all these adventures. But the reality is you're entering indentured servitude or the military industrial killing machine. My grandfather, who's right there on that photo, he faked his ID to sign up for the armed services. I think it was the Army, signed up before he was 18. And then he was in the Korean War.
Yeah.
And he went through all that. He also did some stuff down in Cuba. And then the one rule he had for all the boys in the family was that we were not allowed to join the armed services.
Yeah.
He never really elaborated on why, but I got the sense that he'd just seen too much of the dark underbelly.
Yeah. So I'll say that the one good thing about the military is you learn leadership at a young age. Mm-hmm. My first job, I was in charge of 220 young men and older men who had more experience than me, but I'm showing up as the officer in the line division in my first squadron, and that's my job. Everything about their life, they're my responsibility, and it's sink or swim. And some people come rolling in like, let me tell you all the stuff I know as a brand new minted Naval Aviator 21. You don't know shit. You don't know anything. I was smart enough and lucky enough to go to Senior Chief McNamara and say, Chief, you know, you've flushed more salt water than I've ever sailed over. This is your division. I'm here to act as a buffer for whatever you need with the leadership, the boss. I'm not in charge of the line division. I'm here to help. I'm going to do whatever it takes, but you know more than me. And it worked out great. And so many things like, young guys getting in trouble. I got some stories on that. Guys, a guy who went AWOL for 180 days and they were going to throw him out. And then I kind of interceded and that guy I gave him a break. And then he ended up becoming a senior chief himself and like turned his whole life around. It's just forced on you to become a leader. And then you see good leadership styles and bad leadership styles. And you can kind of adjust your leadership style based on what you've lived through. So that's the good side. And the camaraderie and the caliber of people, very similar to Bitcoin. The caliber of people in Bitcoin is very similar to the caliber of people that I met in the military. And it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood. The bad part is you are a tool of the military-industrial complex, and you have this idea in your head that you're fighting for all the founding principles of the United States as they're articulated in the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. But the reality of the situation is you're fighting some banker's war or to continue the Eurodollar system or the world reserve currency as it's currently the petrodollar system. And, the dates we all know, 1913, 1971. And we've gotten to a point where this global hegemony is trying to maintain itself, and you're just an instrument of that system, not really necessarily fighting for what you think you're fighting for. And it's an eye-opener.
Forget multivitamins and other supplements. Animal organs are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. You can get 100 times more nutrients from organs than you can from muscle meats. But the problem with eating organs is that they are difficult to find in stores, they are difficult to prepare, and even when they are prepared well, they often don't taste great. Thankfully, Heart and Soil Supplements has made consuming organ meats so much easier by providing powderized organs in capsule form. Organ meats include everything your body needs to thrive: vitamins, minerals, peptides, proteins, and growth factors. This is why organ meats were the most prized foods for our ancestors. Fortunately for us, Heart and Soil makes these treasured foods easily accessible. So go to heartandsoil.co today and use discount code BREEDLOVE to get started on your journey to optimal health and vitality. Again, that's heartandsoil.co, discount code BREEDLOVE. Would you rather have 1 Bitcoin today or 2 Bitcoin a few years from now? Bitcoin mining is a tried and true strategy for accumulating Bitcoin. Over a 2 to 4 year time frame, successful miners have consistently accumulated more Bitcoin than they otherwise would with a traditional dollar cost average strategy. Blockware mining as a service enables you to start mining Bitcoin from your laptop. Blockware handles everything from securing the miners to sourcing low-cost power to configuring the mining pool. They do it all. Plus, with Blockware's one-of-a-kind mining marketplace, you can buy and sell live Bitcoin miners with just a few keystrokes. In this marketplace, buyers get to purchase live machines at vetted facilities, enabling them to mine with zero lead time. And sellers get the opportunity to liquidate their machines and hosting contracts at will. This means you can mine Bitcoin with zero long-term commitment and high liquidity on your mining rigs. Blockware will even cover your energy bill for 1 week per mining rig when you sign up at mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. Again, that's 1 free week of Bitcoin mining at mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. And on top of this offer, you can also use code BREEDLOVE to get $100 off your first mining rig with Blockware Solutions. Were there particular experiences that caused you to have that revelation or epiphany that you're like, oh, I thought I was here serving my country and all these principles. Now I see I am cannon fodder for someone what were the awakening points for you?
I think just these endless wars that we seem to get into. I got in, after Vietnam, I graduated in 1989. Peace and prosperity, generally speaking. And then the first Iraq war kicked off. I was still in flight school. But that started a never-ending deployment schedule for how many years? About 30? Mm-hmm. What are we doing here? What are we trying to accomplish? The same thing with Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. What's the point here? What does victory look like? and it doesn't look like anything. It's just this normalcy bias feeding the industrial. I mean, that whole complex is in the business of war.
Yeah.
If you're not expending artillery, if you're not creating new weapon system, if you're not doing all that stuff, business is bad.
Yeah.
And you can see that whether it's in food, you can see that whether it's in big pharma, the system, whatever the best intentions in the beginning seem to run away, and then that system just sustains itself. Its whole goal of the system is to sustain itself. Yeah. And seeing that coming to that realization as a young guy is kind of hard because, you don't have access to information. Mm-hmm. Back then, things were very hard. I mean, people were reading newspapers and you didn't have access to information like you have now. Mm. That's why Twitter Spaces to me is just phenomenal, right? I'm on 2 hours a day, every day, with some of the smartest people in the world can join in and discuss ideas centered around Bitcoin, but you can't talk about price go up all day. As a matter of fact, we never even talk about the price anymore. We talk about all these tangential things that would be fixed or are affected by sound money. Mm. And when you understand that things happen at that base layer, if you fix that, it's not going to fix everything. But the root of all the problems and all the pathologies we see stem from that underlying base layer of fiat currency that is corrupted. And then everything built above it is corrupted. It's not, look, everything's been said about that, just not everybody said it, especially in this seat. But when you come to that realization, everything else kind of starts to make sense. And then you go down all the other rabbit holes that get opened up from knowing that.
Yeah, the fucking forever wars. It's like, if there's not a worse symptom of money printing, I don't know what is. It's unbelievable. So I can imagine when you probably get exhausted, right? Where you think, oh, I'm going on this mission to do this thing, but then when the thing just drags on forever, right? Even what George W. Bush had the mission accomplished thing, in whatever year it was, and we're there for another 20 years. Like, it's just occupation. It's just imperialism.
It is.
But no one's like, we'll call it what it is because it's the modern thing. So we all have to keep pretending the propaganda is true and we're going after the terrorists and we're the good guys.
It's like patriotic if you say anything.
Bullshit.
It's all bullshit. And I'm looking at Jason Lowery's book there, Soft War. We've reached the limits of kinetic warfare with nuclear weapons, right? Like the whole idea that somehow Ukraine is going to beat Russia is preposterous. They have nuclear weapons. It's not going to happen. At some point, even if you were winning, you get to a point where they defend themselves and then you have nuclear conflagration and more than likely the end of humanity. So now, those wars are going to take place elsewhere, whether it's in economics or in cyberspace or wherever. But it's not to say we're not going to have war anymore. We obviously are. But they're proxy wars, they're limited in nature, and they're typically, by definition, going to have to be never ending because, like, who's going to win a war against China and the United States? There's no winning. So it has to morph into something else. And I think that's a good thing because when you see man's capability for inhumanity toward other men who you'd otherwise probably be friends with, you come to think, man, this is crazy. This is literally the definition of insanity.
Reminds me that Ayn Rand wrote something in Atlas Shrugged like, when money stops being the tool by which men deal with one another, then men become the tools of men.
That's right.
And it's a terrible thing. But you did say that there was this benefit, right? There was a benefit in you learned leadership young.
Yeah.
It's like a two-part question. What are those leadership principles? And then how can we learn those outside of a military setting?
The principles are honesty, fairness, transparency.
Sounds like Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of what I know is from being an instructor as a fighter pilot. In the Navy, I got to learn how to lead people, but in the Air Force, it's differently mechanized in the Air Force. You never have, you Your job is being a pilot. Where in the Navy, your job was as a ground officer, whatever your ground job was. That was your main job. And then you also flew, right? That was secondary. Your fitness reports and everything were based on how you ran the line division or the people underneath you. When you go to the Air Force, I was basically in charge of other officers who were squared away, military officers who've been to college and very intelligent. They take care of themselves. But the debrief was a place where if I get a young aviator, I would bring him in and we'd go out on a training mission. And right above the debrief door, it says, leave your ego at the door. It's not about who's right. It's about what's right. I love that. So when I would come in and debrief a young aviator, we go out and fly a training mission. Who do you think made all the mistakes in the flight? Well, the student. I mean, they're new. By definition, they're going to make the mistakes. But what I would do is I would start the debrief by pointing out my mistakes. I'd say, here's what we said we were going to do today and accomplish. I know I didn't fly the perfect flight because the perfect flight's never been flown. Tell me what I've done wrong. And they'd sit there and be, well, like, sir, you're awesome. And not only are you awesome, you're good looking. I'm like, no, and we'd sit there in uncomfortable silence until they told me something that I did wrong. And I'm forcing that, and I wouldn't defend. I would just say, you're right. I said I was going to be here at this altitude at a certain time. I was 5 seconds late, and I was 200 feet high. It created confusion in you, and I'd write it down on the board. And the whole idea of that wasn't to pick on me, but just to demonstrate that I made a mistake. I'm going to fess up to it. I'm going to own it, and we're going to get better when we address it. Because guess what? Right after that, the tables are turned. Mm-hmm. And it just drops down that barrier of self-defense and ego to say, it's not about who's right, it's about what's right. It doesn't matter what your rank is. Those are good, right? Your rank and your status, and I'm an instructor and you're a student. Those things are good. But in order to get better at what we do, we have to be honest and open communication so that we don't go out and make those same mistakes again. Because if we do, someone's going to get killed. It's a very unforgiving environment, particularly on the deck of an aircraft carrier. Those kids are 19 years old. I've seen kids run into turbine blades and just be vaporized, right, in a second. So
right in front of you?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Twice.
Brutal.
So one time I was sitting, it was almost deja vu. I was sitting in an A6 intruder at night on the carrier. Can't hear anything. The noise is deafening. There's fumes in the air from the gasoline, and it's high, and the lights are down. It's low light environment. And a guy a chief or somebody grabbed the kid and told him to do something. The kid ran around. He ran right into a prop arc of an E2C Hawkeye and just gone. Fast forward maybe 3 years later, and the same thing almost exactly happened. Guy's telling the kid something. He's running right toward a prop arc, and the guy grabs him and goes, "You freaking idiot," and sent him away and saved his life. Wow. Yeah. So that's the difference between living and dying on that very, very dangerous environment with young kids who are just trying to figure shit out, right? And there's procedures and everything else that we got to follow because those procedures are written in blood. Not to be dark, but that's just how it is. That's the environment you operate in. So to your point, leadership is all about look, if you tell a lie or you defend something you did, everybody knows it anyway. They know you screwed up. If you just get it out there, and now you've dropped that wall that people put around them. It wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. I did it because of it. It's like, no, I made that mistake and I will fix it. And that's it. And it's just one of many kind of life lessons that you're forced to learn in the military. And that's awesome. It's a great organization for leadership. But then there's the other side of it where, it's not so great.
Oh. Speaking of war, do you think we're on the precipice or maybe in some ways in a current form of World War III? Well, do we have one gnarly, brutal, kinetic power projection conundrum in front of us, before we move into an age of peace and soft war?
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. All these things seem to be colliding at the same time. We're entering into a fourth turning for sure. The money's bad. We're in a debt cycle that just has to be reset somehow. You've got strife that's coming around the world from all of that, protests, and people are upset, and just And I saw a guy pull over on the way down here. Like there was like some guy cut another guy off and they're screaming and yelling. People were just on edge. And then you've got this convergence of like AI and energy and Bitcoin. So the opportunity is great, but the dangers and the pitfalls that could happen from all of this stuff are just almost too much to think about. And you really don't know who's behind the lever. I mean, with Bitcoin, that's a separate issue, but like AI, you know, I saw an interview with Altman, Tucker Carlson did. Yeah. And I'm sitting here going, this is the freaking guy who's, like, I don't know if you saw it.
Have you ever seen the clip?
It's, you go, wow, man, this could spiral out of control in a bad way. And then I saw another guy interviewed. He's like, yeah, we're going to have like 99% unemployment. Like, what do you
Dr. Roman
do with that?
He was on Diary of a CEO. I think that's
yes,
just recently.
Yes.
5-6 million
I was
views
listening
on that
to it last night and man, talk about an eye opener. Things you didn't consider of how this could get to, you know, general intelligence and to just super intelligence where we don't even know what's going on. And then you add in robotics to all that. And like, what do the humans do?
Can I ask one question about that?
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt your flow, but did he talk at all about if we get to 99% unemployment, did he also talk about how that means AI has collapsed the prices of things?
Yes.
Like goods and services. So it would actually increase standard of living? Because a lot of people talk about this 99% unemployment thing. Very few people talk about the standard of living increase that creates the 99% unemployment.
Yes, hypothetically. He does. And I'm only halfway through it. So, but I was enthralled by it. But a lot.
He's a Bitcoiner too. In the end, he talks about Bitcoin.
I didn't get there yet, but he talks about, you know, a lot of people's purpose in life is their work. It's how they find meaning in their life. And when you don't have any meaning in your life, what does that look like? And it's hard to, you know.
Oh, I'm curious your thoughts on this.
No, I just think people will, I mean, sure, people do derive meaning from their work, but I think that people that are working as Amazon delivery guys probably have higher aspirations.
Yeah,
right. You can find something to do that you enjoy more than dropping packages at doors or whatever the thing is. And so I don't subscribe to that. Like I just, the two things I get frustrated with about people that talk about that is they talk about the unemployment, but they don't talk about the fact that it collapsed the prices of goods and services and increased the standard of living for everyone.
So he definitely does talk about that.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that I subscribe to, okay, if we don't have jobs, then we're all going to be suicidal. It's like, well, I like art and there's all kinds of things to do. I mean,
there are.
I don't know that he says it would be suicidal, but I think he alludes to the meaning crisis. I mean, I should be able to pinpoint what he said. I listened to the whole interview, but it was kind of when getting ready for work one day. I DM'd him directly after listening to that, and he replied, I want to get this guy in that seat and listen to these two, him and Robert, work it out, because
that would be interesting.
I might be biased though, because I don't get bored. I mean, there's always something for me to do, and I haven't had a job in years.
Yeah,
I had a job in 10 years, but
yeah. Well, I mean, Bitcoin had a lot to do with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of people, you know, which is a whole other thing. I mean, the whole reason for Spaces is we're trying to get as many people to understand what's actually happening. But man, it's a lot. You used the analogy of the elephant, the blind man and the elephant the other day. I see that. It's very difficult to orange pill somebody. It's a lot of work, and a lot of people aren't willing to put in the work, and there's no way around the work. And you know, I noticed my military buddies are much more apt at adopting Bitcoin. Like I was an annoyance to them for a long time, but these are guys who, particularly the pilots, like Jethro, we're used to the fire hose effect, right? It's like, here's this huge thing about this aircraft. You're going to learn how to build this aircraft, and then you're going to learn how to fly it, and then you're going to learn the weapon systems. By the way, the weapon systems are always being updated. And by the way, now you're an instructor, and you're going to have to learn it and teach it to everybody. And then you're going to have to figure out how to make it better so that we can send it back to the engineer. And it's like, holy crap, it's a ton of work, and those guys are used to it. So when you give them, I would always send them, what's the gentleman's name? Joe Bryan, What's the Problem? Awesome, right? Because if you don't know there's a problem, then you're not looking for a solution. And many, many people don't know there's a problem at all. They're just living their life head down, they're the hamster on the wheel, trying to make more money. And now my wife's got to go to work, all that stuff that we always talk about. But that's what I send them first. And then I send them God Bless Bitcoin. I'm like, these are just high level. Just watch this. Just do me a favor, watch this. And then I send them to your credit, I always send them to the Sailor series.
Do they listen? I've tried like 40 times to get someone to listen to the Sailor series. I've been unsuccessful.
So my Wall Street buddies they think I'm crazy and you don't understand how the system works. I'm like, I actually do better than you do. So they're
the same from the Wall Street guys.
They're
insane. Arrogant as fuck. It's unbelievable.
They are. And they don't, the truth of the matter is, and I don't want to disparage their jobs. These guys are very successful and they're very, I guess, hardworking, but they don't, somebody hands them a sheet. Here's the, you know, the TLDR on this stock or this bond or whatever. And they go out and there's no real ton of work put in to understand the mechanisms. By the way, I don't even know if you could. I graduated. I did work towards an MBA, and I got my degree in accounting and finance from Villanova. I never once learned about banks and central banks and nothing. Yeah. Right. So how would you know unless you did it on your own? And stuff that like macroeconomics didn't make sense to me. That guy we were talking about earlier. Like, I get it. I can regurgitate this on a test and get an A, but it doesn't make sense. But maybe I'm 21 or 19. Maybe I just don't know enough. And then when you see stuff like long-term capital management, 2000, 2008, you go, wait a second. Something's going on here that I don't understand. I'm going to go try to understand it. And then you read things like Human Action and all the books you have here and you go, okay, you know, the Austrian school, I'm starting to figure this stuff out. And at the time I was a big gold and silver guy. I'm like, okay, if shit goes sideways here, at least I have a bearer asset that is a store of value and all that. And then Bitcoin came along and, but I'm going off on a tangent, but my fighter pilot guys are willing to put in the work and they've all been orange pill. Matter of fact, I don't know if you're going out to the Bitcoin Alpha event. A lot of those guys are coming out. Got the commander of the Indo-Pacific who's like, I get it, super smart guy, photographic memory, he gets it. And then my traditional Wall Street guys are just like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. And by the way, the stock market's up 30%. What are you talking about? I'm like, okay, good luck.
So the military guys that do the work, you send them down that path. You said, what's the problem? God bless Bitcoin Sailor series. They do the whole thing.
And then Jeff Booth series, your Jeff Booth series. Okay, and then it's just like, I pepper them. And some of them will be like, dude, knock it off. You know, I'm not interested. Some of them, a lot of them are like, keep it coming, man.
Wow.
And because they're used to that level of work, whereas the other guys to a large extent aren't used to
Is there a crossing point where you see a lot of people getting orange pilled?
In my life?
In that little prescription you give people, like, are you seeing a lot of people convert? I've heard a lot of people after the Sailor series, like, oh my God, that's what orange pilled me. So I'm just curious if that's been successful for you.
It's been highly effective, but this is where you get into personality types.
Yeah, sure.
And we've talked about this a bunch on Spaces, the Myers-Briggs personality types. It's very concentrated into INTP, ENTP. INTJ, right? Intuitive, or I don't.
Intuitive, introverted, intuitive thinking, judging.
Yes.
Mine, I'm INTJ.
Yeah, and we're basically somewhere around 3% of the population. So we're the ones who, when they tell you, oh, we developed a COVID vaccine, you're like, I got a question. Right? Yeah. And we're the ones who are just like, no. And we're the 3%. And this is where it gets into Malcolm Gladwell, right? Where we're just such assholes. And so what's the
disagreeable?
Disagreeable personality type with Jordan Peterson, that we start to make it 4%, 5%, 6%, 10%. And when it hits 10%, they fall like dominoes because most people just go with the flow, man. We're herd animals to a large extent.
Yeah, I saw that chart. INTJ is like 3% of the population, as you said. I want to say it's like 40% of Bitcoiners or something.
It's crazy.
It's an order of magnitude difference.
We go down, we'll have people on the podcast, or on the, not the podcast, the Spaces, take the test and tell us what you're on. They're like, yeah, ENTP, INTJ. It's a freakish amount. So then you go, okay, well, maybe some people just aren't wired to receive this message. And then what do? It's frustrating because you want to get as many of your friends and family and people you care about, even people you don't even know. You want to get them in the lifeboat because you, to a large extent, we're very, Bitcoiners seem to be very perceptive and very intuitive and very, discerning. And a lot of people aren't. And they just think you're crazy. Now, that's an advantage to us because we're in early. I got into Bitcoin in 2013. It's another story, but he just knew there was something different about that. And you guys know back then there was like nothing. I was looking for Andreas Antonopoulos and I'm trying to read the white paper, but I'm not a technical guy. I'm like, I kind of get it. But I knew that there were a lot of smart people who did get it. And I'm like, when's the last time all these smart people were like enthralled with something and it turned out to be bullshit? And I'm a pretty practical guy. So that's how I got in. And then, as time goes on, you're just constantly trying to pull in more knowledge and go further and further down the rabbit hole. But most people aren't like that.
I say something similar, that I reached a certain level of conviction in my own self-study. But then you're like, well, fuck, I don't know. That I just read a bunch of stuff and come to a conclusion that's wrong. Like, I don't really know. I just read a bunch of things and formed a conclusion.
Yeah.
But then when I would start going to these Bitcoin events and I would talk to these motherfuckers, these guys are all hyper intelligent, hyper nerd, all over the map in terms of entrepreneurship, lifestyle. Like, they're just very eclectic group, but all very smart, very entrepreneurial, very ethical largely.
Yes.
And very disagreeable. Like, all these guys are very kind of adversarial in their opinions, and they're all agreeing about one thing.
Yeah.
Like, very disagreeable group, but all in strong agreement about one thing. I was like, okay, this is a pretty strong point of consilience on Bitcoin.
And the majority is always wrong. Somebody told me that one time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's right. The majority is usually always wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun ride. It gets. I mean, you guys know it gets not tiring.
It does get tiring.
Well, you talk about the same thing over again, and you want to be on a level with other Bitcoiners talking about things that matter. And there's a bifurcation of Bitcoiners that I want to talk about, but and then you got to come back down to a very basic level over and over and over again. But that's kind of the service of Bitcoin, I think. As tiring as it might get, it's a noble endeavor. And the other thing is we're always trying to poke holes, just like a debrief I was talking about. We're always trying to poke holes in our thesis. Like, how can I be wrong? And that's another personality characteristic that's kind of rare. And I think that keeps us from, this whole thing about op return and everything. I dig that because we're always on the lookout for what could derail this thoroughly awesome thing. Because there are definitely attack vectors and we need to shut those off as best we can.
Are you concerned about op return at Core 30? I took my perspective. I got the most concerned I think I've been about Bitcoin in, I don't know, a long time. Yeah. When the whole thing around illicit imagery getting described on the blockchain. Like 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. I'm like, free market, JPEGs, monkeys, layer 2 people. It's like, it'll work itself out. But that kind of concerned me a little bit.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of conversations. We've had Mechanic and other people on the spaces talking about it. It is concerning. I know it's going to work itself out. I think a lot of people, a lot of very technical guys who are on the spectrum are of the opinion that, well, if you can do it, you should do it. And other guys are like, no, that we don't want to get down that road because just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And like Jeff says all the time, Jeff Booth, the Bitcoin trilemma, like the base layer needs to be preserved because we have, I think the trilemma is what? Scalability, decentralization, and security, right? So you got to pick two of those. You have to give on one. And obviously scalability on the first layer is what we gave up on for perfection, or as close to perfection as you can on the other two. And in the beginning of Bitcoin, I was a shitcoiner too. Like, I had Bitcoin, but I had all the other shitcoins because I thought there was going to be Bitcoin. And then over here, there was going to be like this whole new creation of decentralized finance that was going to run on Bitcoin. But we had to rebuild the current system digitally over here. But then when you start realizing that not only is Bitcoin the money, but it's the protocol layer that you can build on top of. It's very similar to the internet, TCP/IP, and now you have Amazon and all the other companies that run on the internet. Bitcoin's that times 1,000. And you don't need these other things over here. You just need Bitcoin. I forget where I was going with that, but
I hope all the XRP and Ethereum and Solana and any of these individuals into that stuff take note to what you just said. That's like really valid.
He was asking about knots and core 30, and just to like reinforce your point. Yeah, it's a great analogy that Bitcoin is the internet, and all of these other shitcoins are intranets or companies.
Yep.
Like that's a really good distinction to make.
Yeah.
You know, that this thing is an internet protocol, not a company, not a leader. It's like a language that people are speaking online.
Yes.
Whereas all these other things are companies, effectively.
That's right. Companies, technologies, or in most cases, just scams, right?
Yeah.
So, and you don't have to. You can, you know, I'm talking to the guys at Simple Proof. They want to get into elections. They want to start putting kind of all information on the chain, and it's such a small amount. I think it's like 31 bytes to put.
32. I talked to the guy after you linked me with him.
Right.
32
so you
bytes.
can hash the information. You put it, you timestamp it. It takes almost no room, but then you can house the actual source material somewhere else, right? And it doesn't have to clog up the chain. I think that's the answer, because you do want, like, these guys are working on elections that can't be fraudulent, right? You do want to have a way to go back and make sure that, you know, people's votes are people's votes and all that. But you can't clog up that space on the chain, because you're going to sacrifice a lot, and it's just not worth it. And just because you can do it, I don't think we should do it. But I can't get into the technical aspect. And sometimes when these guys argue, it's like, okay, you lost me. I'm not quite sure. But, you know, I'm with Jeff Booth on that one. I heard Jeff talk about it, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then you guys had a guest here, I can't recall his name, talking about it a little bit, on all the development that can happen on layer 2 with Lightning and whatnot. And it's hard for us to see and imagine, because it's not here yet. But just like you couldn't see what the internet was in 92, I remember. I mean, hearing about it, but I can download a picture of a cat, and I don't even get it. And then it's like, oh shit, now I get it.
What's an email? I love that clip.
Right.
You know what an email is? It's the news reporter. She's like, what's an email?
Yeah. So I don't know, that's where we are, and we'll figure this out too. But the good news is we have so many people who are hyper sensitive to it, hyper disagreeable. We're going to figure it out.
Bitcoin custody is evolving. Onramp is pioneering a new model, multi-institution custody, which eliminates single points of failure and adds fault tolerance to your setup. With Onramp's multi-institution custody, your funds are auditable on-chain, cannot be rehypothecated, and can only be moved with your explicit direction. Multi-institution custody simplifies private key management, providing unparalleled peace of mind for you and your loved ones. Onramp also helps you seamlessly tap into financial services like trading, inheritance, loans, and more, all without compromising on accessibility. So schedule a consultation with the Onramp team today to learn more at onrampbitcoin.com/breedlove. Again, that's onrampbitcoin.com/breedlove. One of my highest health priorities is keeping my brain in top shape. To take care of my brain power, I do many things, such as striving to read, write, exercise, and meditate daily. One of the latest tools in my brain power toolkit is MindLab Pro. MindLab Pro is a nootropic supplement that is scientifically proven to enhance your brain power. When I take MindLab Pro, my mind feels like it has a better grip on the world, my thinking is more lucid, and the articulation of my speech is radically improved. MindLab Pro has been tested in rigorous, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials and has been proven to enhance brain power for users in every age group. MindLab Pro is an advanced formulation of 11 nootropic ingredients and is backed by research from over 1,400 human trials conducted over the past 32 years. So if you're looking to enhance your brain power, MindLab Pro is an excellent solution. Go to mindlabpro.com/breedlove to start enhancing your brain power today. Again, that's mindlabpro.com/breedlove.
I feel like Putin's just trying to avoid the United States dick from being in his ass, really.
Yeah.
Isn't he just defending himself, basically?
Yeah, NATO's moving into Ukraine. and
we totally,
80% or something of their energy exports go through that channel?
yeah.
So the U.S. is trying to cut off the revenue stream.
to Europe. Yeah, you mean the Nord Stream?
Crimea and all that. Like,
Yeah.
I've read at some point, I could be wrong, that like most of Russia's 80% of their energy exports went through that channel, basically. So that's why it's so geopolitically significant.
It is.
NATO is trying to cut off their dick or their revenue stream.
Well, in Germany, we kind of screwed our ally because that was where Germany got all its energy from.
Yeah.
So now they're completely deindustrialized. They have no energy. And
It's crazy.
You know, they're shutting down huge plants that they're not quite sure how to turn them back on if the energy does come back. It's just crazy.
Isn't that an incentive to go nuclear?
I don't think so. I mean, Trump, love him or hate him, understands the globalists, understands what's happening, and doesn't, was really trying to end the war, which basically we started. They told us this is a red line, don't cross it. We swore on a stack of Bibles we weren't going to, and then we did. And Kamala Harris goes, she probably didn't even know what she was doing. She goes out to a German weapons conference and says, we're going to bring Ukraine into NATO. And they're like, no, you're not. We told you that's a red line. 1 out of every 7 Russians died through Ukraine during World War II. Like, we're not doing that. And you've been militarizing our borders forever. And then we made the biggest mistake of all. We stole their reserves, their U.S. dollar reserves.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was
Talk
insane.
about a
Orange
billboard.
pill moment, right?
I know. This is like, you can't even comprehend how they would knowingly take that much counterparty risk. But I can't.
Normalcy bias. It's the way
Normalcy
the
bias,
system's mechanized.
Yeah, and I think they could sort of plan around it too, right? It's kind of like a bond.
Yeah.
It's like you leave the $600 billion on deposit with the SWIFT network, and like that's a show of good faith.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of a reciprocity there, but then when they cross that line, they seize their shit.
Yeah. And there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. Like you just weaponize what's supposed to be a neutral reserve currency.
Yeah.
And it's not neutral anymore because you just made it political. And the whole world, I mean, you guys know this, everybody in the world went, oh shit, they can do that.
Yeah.
What does that say for us?
Yeah.
It was
We
the
don't wanna do
truckers moment times 100, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just colossally stupid. But I mean, politicians trade in the currency of votes. They don't trade in the currency of solutions. Yeah. So the system's so broken, it's like, okay, let's start over. Let's start over. And the start over has to be how we exchange value, right?
Can we do that without like extreme carnage? It's one of the things I think a lot about. Like, how do we get from where we're at today to this like bright orange future that we see is probabilistic with like the least damage?
So I can't find the flaws in this, but if you notice, are we talking now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
Also, if you can't pull your mic just a little
Yeah. So I sent it to you. You probably haven't read it yet, but this guy, Marilyn Hoddle, is a banker, super smart guy. And he sent me this kind of list of things about, if you saw Putin said the U.S. is trying to get rid of their debt, their worldwide debt through crypto. I don't know if you saw that quote from Putin. And he's right. We're trying to, they say they want dollar ubiquity, but a cheaper dollar. The way they're going to do that is with the stable coins worldwide. And the incentive for like somebody in Nigeria is great because their currency is exploding the minute they get it, right? It's hyperinflating away, or look at Venezuela or wherever. So the ability, if you have a cell phone and an internet connection, to then jump into the dollar, which is the prettiest horse in the glue factory, all of a sudden you can just take a breath, right? Oh, I don't have to get rid of my dollars immediately. They're not hyperinflating away. And then that creates obviously the ability to go buy Bitcoin, because you can't buy Bitcoin with, whatever the Bolivar or whatever. So now that's a pathway. But if you do that, you're going to, so that's what the stable coins, they are like the liquidity in the system. And then the strategic Bitcoin reserve for a nation state, the United States says they're going to do it, is like kind of the collateral. You put it there to build collateral, right? You have a reserve, and then the way you circumvent the Fed is you start doing things like bit bonds, where you have somebody like 21 issue a bond that's, take 90% U.S. Treasuries, And the treasuries are going to be bought by stable coins, right? And 10% Bitcoin, which gives it a disproportionate fiat upside. So instead of getting 4% on the US Treasury, you're now going to get 15% on a bit bond. And you've just cut out the Fed, right? I own the stable coin, which is backed 1-to-1 with the US Treasury. So it's collateralized and it's got Bitcoin collateralizing it. Now we don't need the Fed. Now the Treasury can issue those. And unlike Michael Saylor's strategy, who's now having a problem figuring out how do I pay my fiat distributions to like all these bonds. I got either sell common shares of MicroStrategy or I got to sell my Bitcoin. But I said I wasn't going to sell my Bitcoin, so now I'm just diluting the common shareholders by selling more common shares, which dilutes my common shareholders, but it pays these interest payments that are due. Well, the U.S. Treasury has no such problem. We're just going to print it and give you your interest. And that creates like this natural flywheel where you've now got a buyer for U.S. Treasury. And I know you hate hearing this because you think they're all going to go away. And I agree. But ultimately, it's just another shit.
No, I think this is a transition pathway.
Transition. That's right.
Of course. It's inevitable that everyone adopts it, including governments and states.
Exactly.
I have no problems with that at all. It's Darwinian as far as I'm concerned.
That's how it's going to happen. It's going to extend the life of the dollar, ostensibly. But what do you create when you do this into a sovereign nation? I mean, you're now forcing these governments, which may be from authoritarian to everywhere in between, maybe they're going to shut down the internet because that's going to destroy their power base, right? So what you might end up creating, and to Darkside's point, and this guy, you should interview Scott, he's like, you might create all these North Koreas around because these tyrants and these governments are not going to go down without fighting.
They lose their currencies and shit, right?
They lose their complete command and control structure. You think they're just going to do that? If they have the ability to shut off the internet, and now what do you have, right? Now what you thought was a great idea potentially might be causing more and more problems in the world and social chaos and all this other stuff. So governments really aren't that good about thinking about second, third, fourth order effects. And you really got to think about these things. But this government, facing the debt that we have and everything we have, are naturally going to gravitate toward a neutral reserve currency that's finite, right? Now think about that flywheel. The U.S. is issuing more treasuries. The stable coins are being created or buying those treasuries. And these structured products that have Bitcoin in them are now ubiquitous and giving people pension funds, endowments, all these things that are underwater. Essentially, they're just living through accounting tricks now. Now they've got something that is based in, a secure neutral reserve currency, and the only safety valve on that is they keep putting Bitcoin in the system is price go up, at least in terms of fiat dollars. So it's reinforcing the flywheel, right? And good, better, and different. Bitcoin owners are going to be the beneficiary of that. But in our gut, we're still like, yeah, but we don't, that's not what we're here for. We're not here to reinforce the nation state type of thing. But that might be a way to soften the blow as you ease it into the system, right? You get the leaven into the bread and it takes some time and people kind of gravitate over, but you're disintermediating the Fed and you're disintermediating the banks. And now I don't have that counterparty risk of a bank, which has no reserve limits on it at all. My money's not in the bank. My money's lent out, 1,000 times at this point. There are no reserve requirements. So it's good for the individual.
Sorry, I didn't mean to catch up. I don't think it reinforces the nation state, actually. Like maybe it does give them some short runway, but in the long run, you're getting more and more people off of fiat rails onto digital rails.
You are.
So you're increasing the portability of capital, obviously giving them access to concealable capital in the form of Bitcoin. And so you're just going to, I think, accelerate the reconfiguration of the global economic order.
Yeah.
By getting people into those rails. Because when you're in fiat rails, you're just fucking stuck, right? Like if you're in China with $1 billion, like, well, you can get 50K out a year and that's it.
That's it.
You're in a cage, right?
Exactly.
If all of a sudden you're uncaged and you've got $1 billion in China, it's like, well, you have $1 billion everywhere. You have world money, right? So what is that going to do in terms of now people can vote with their feet with a very high signal because they also get to vote with, they get to take their capital with them.
Yeah.
Basically.
You can get out. Yeah, for sure.
And then all of a sudden you get this sovereign individual thesis where government's like, oh, fuck, I have to actually care about my taxpayers and listen to their preferences and compete for their business.
Right.
I'm no longer in a system where I can just put them in a cage and milk them when I want.
That's right.
They're now portable. Their capital is portable. Their capital is concealable. So I actually look at that the opposite way. I think it's actually going to accelerate it.
It will.
And I, to the question about like catastrophe, I do wonder what it's going to be like. I mean, we have no really idea at all. I think to the example of the Soviet Union collapsing, like when it went bankrupt, basically, it was, it's economically outcompeted by the West, and then it just sort of fragments into 30 countries or whatever it was prior to its unification, right? It fragmented back into that. I don't know how much chaos and turmoil was going on over there, but I think it might look something kind of like that. It's like you get a bunch of nation states going bankrupt all at once. It's like, well, government becomes local again. All, the centralized power becomes a lot of local fiefdoms again.
Yep.
Violence becomes, lower scale, but more widespread.
Yeah.
You get more private security and all this stuff. So
yeah. We started this as what is the salve, right? What is the transition that minimizes pain to people who just don't get Bitcoin? And, despite our best efforts, right? So, yeah, I mean, I agree. But it ultimately, I think it, like you said, it defragments. It goes back to, it's weird. In the United States, we started out as states that came together, centralized power. And then, our founding fathers never imagined that we would have this huge behemoth in Washington, D.C. That was an anathema to them, right? It was like, it used to be God gave, the rights to the king, who then gave you whatever rights he thought you deserved. And we flipped it all on its head, right? We went, God gives the individual the rights. And then the individual, if they want to, give it to government in a limited way as determined by them. Yeah. Well, we've kind of flipped that on its head, and now we're reaping the rewards of that. And I guess it's the natural state of...
The Texans thought about it, though.
Yeah, they did.
Their fucking charter, they're like, we'll secede whenever we want.
Yeah, there's always...
And that might happen too, right? If that's going down and the United States central government is bankrupt, then Texas would probably be the first one to flip.
Yeah.
And if it's anything like they had 6 million people cross the southern border over 2 or 3 years in Texas. And when Texas finally sent in their National Guard to put a stop to it, U.S. central government sends in their cops to try to allow it to happen again. And then all of a sudden 26 states stand with Texas. Yeah. Like if Texas ever did exit the United States, I think you'd see a lot of other states do something similar pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's all driven by economics at the end of the day.
It is. It's all incentives. And look, states still have, sovereignty under the 10th Amendment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I defy you to tell me where in the Constitution that the government has these imaginary powers that were relegated to the state. Yeah. It was supposed to be like very weak central government, more powerful states, more powerful localities, even more powerful in the state, and then sovereign individuals. And we've perverted that through just different different.
Well, once the central bank goes out of business, you start reverting right back to that, though.
That's right. And I think to answer your question, I hope that is the thing that avoids this kind of catastrophic. Yeah. And then you combine all this stuff with like AI, and people think, linearly, they think, well, that's way far away. I'm like, it's not that far away. We're at the bottom of that S curve, man, and you better buckle up because it's coming. And robotics and power. I think AI might hit this power kind of wall because we just don't have we haven't put anything into our infrastructure we haven't built a nuclear power plant in how many years? 40, right? So, I just got a notice the other day that my Arizona Power is going to raise the rates 12%. Who can afford that? It's crazy. Wow. The reason is you got all these data centers and everything else sucking that power, willing to pay top dollar for it. And we're going to hit that wall. Now, there's all talk about drill, baby, drill and all this other stuff, but it takes, if you started tomorrow, it would take 15 years to build a nuclear power plant or what do they call small box nuclear or whatever.
And China's already moving on this, right? They've been building nuclear. Like I saw the chart where China's energy production has totally eclipsed the United States.
I believe it, yeah.
And that's concerning, geopolitically at least.
Well, that's one of the, advantages of having a more authoritarian government. You can move fast, make decisions fast, whereas we have this very, by design, slow process that's already actually broken. Nobody agrees on anything anymore, so it's hard to get that kind of stuff done. And by black letter law, I guess you need congressional approval to do all these things, so we're kind of stuck. But I think to a large extent, I don't know who started it. I mean, they're all guilty, but we almost have rule now by presidential fiat, right? I'm just going to sign an executive order and do whatever I want. There seems to be no limit on that. It gets challenged on the court, but everybody laughs because it's going to take years to get through the court system. So in the meantime, we're just going to do it and see how that plays out with our team of lawyers. And then, but the problem with that is the next administration, I mean, you know that the first thing they do is scratch out all the old executive orders and write a whole bunch of new ones with the, the auto pen. And you never know who's calling the shots. At least in the last administration, you never knew who. I mean, you knew it wasn't him. He was in bed by 3:00. So it's like holy shit, man! How do we get here? He
likes ice cream.
Yeah, I think I like vanilla. It's like okay, that's it for today, folks. It's like oh my gosh. So, but we had something else. You had an itinerary, but I guess we went off of it.
I don't know if it's
I was
necessary.
wondering, what do these guys want to talk to me about? Like you started off with Sailor, Jeff Booth. Now we're down to
this is great. I love hearing your perspectives on this. I'm curious. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm actually curious because you said a couple times you think you think favorably of Trump. But then I take the harder view of I think they're all puppets, and Trump included. I think he's just fucking kissing the ring, serving the Zionist masters, all that shit. He's just another one of those guys. I don't think we had a real president since JFK, as far as I can tell. I wonder how you reconcile that with a Bitcoiner.
I literally was going to think of the same thing.
And I generally agree that in his first term, whether he knew it or not, the unelected administrative state has all the power, right? They don't really give a shit who the president is because they're just going to resist or whatever they're going to do, right? I think being shot at, I mean, somebody tried to kill this guy and why, I think because they saw him as a threat to whatever their plans were, whether it's the Davos crowd or whoever. Mm-hmm. So I think he's got good intentions, but there's a famous road paved with good intentions, as we all know.
Yeah.
So I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. I knew that if Kamala Harris had won, I was running around the streets of West Philly in election, going to talk to union leaders and all this because I felt really passionately that if she had gotten in, it was accelerating the chaos. And Trump being shot at, he's kind of his own guy. He surrounds himself with very smart people who he listens. I mean, I see the guy's modus operandi. I don't know if it's savable or not, but I thought he was the best shot. I voted for him. But is he the savior? I don't look at politicians as saviors at all. I think I look at individuals, and I'm very pro individual. And if things start to fractalize, like you said, I'm all on board. But my main goal, especially as we do 2-3 hours a day, and then we jump on weekends on these spaces, is I want to get the word out to as many people as possible, because I'd hate to see if things do go sideways and do end up in a bad way, which is possible. There's a non-zero probability that would happen. I just don't want to see that happen. So anything I can do to contribute to the greater good, that's what I'm here for. And I'm sure you guys are too.
Yeah. What do you think about Bukele and what he's done? A lot of human rights activists have issues with what he's done, but it's seems like a war zone. Whose rights are more important? How do you respond? Is Trump doing something similar, or is he capable of doing something similar to what Bukele did?
Well, I was very distressed in the beginning of the administration, or maybe it was during the election, where he was talking poorly about Bukele, and I was like, man, somebody better get him the memo that this guy's a natural ally to us, and he's kind of figured it out before we did. And I know you went to, Trump went to, in Nashville, was the last Bitcoin conference prior to this one? Well, you could tell he didn't quite get it, right? He's just kind of saying whatever. He hasn't been orange pilled. When I went down to El Salvador, I felt in my bones, things were going sideways here. It's better to have, what I learned in the military is, it's better to be 3 years too early than 3 seconds too late. I've seen countries where people are, their life was normal and then it was destroyed, and now they're in a line that there's no direction, there's no food, there's nothing. Like you're a refugee, And you never want to be in that line, I got to tell you. So it's better to have a plan than not have a plan. And if everybody laughs at me later, fine, great, I was wrong, awesome. But I saw what he was doing when he arrested all those criminals. I mean, that was step one. And I just listened to what he was saying, and I just said, man, I got to go down and check this out. And I got off the airplane and it was kind of like, okay, is this going to be safe? It was probably in 2023, early 23. And like anything, you fear the unknown. I went there, I met the people, and they're highly educated, and they've already been through, like Max Kaiser says, they've already been through their fourth turning. So they had great leadership in Bukele, in my opinion, a guy who understands not only Bitcoin and sound money, but he understands a lot of other things, a very smart guy. And I think he's a statesman, not a politician. And through some miracle, he became the president. I mean, his story is going to be, when it's told, is amazing. But that country, with or without Bukele, is never going back to what it was. And I met a surfer girl on the beach one of the first times I was down there, and she was telling me the same thing. She's like, well, you don't understand all these human rights and all that. And I go, okay, what's plan B? You have literal satanic killers terrorizing people, raping little girls, coming to your house and telling you your 6-year-old son is going to be in the gang, or we're going to kill him and send him home in body parts. What's the negotiation with that? What human rights exactly? Whose rights are we protecting here? So the minute he put everybody in jail, I'm like, man, just from a pure business, I've been doing business since I got out of the military and stuff. The disproportionate rate of return is from really shitty to not that bad. 10%. I mean, all the gains, if you were going to make an investment, are from there. It's riskier, but then from 10% to 90%, when everybody piles in, it's, there's upside, but it's not the disproportionate upside. So I went down there and I started meeting my partner, Max Novoa, a wonderful guy. Every time I would go to buy a property, like, this guy Max bought it. I'm like, damn. Like, who's this guy Max? He goes, he drives around on a Harley. I go, I got to meet this guy. So I met Max. We became good friends. And, he grew up there. So he had the inside scoop on all this land. And then I partnered with him. And then he just helped me, introduce me to a lawyer and an accounting firm. And here's how things work. And here's how you get import things. And you realize, man, that country is going like this. And we're going, there's no doubt in the United States, we're going down. Now, do we have a chance to turn things around? Yeah, we do. But that's typically not the historical story, right? Empires fade. And I just wanted to go down there and, again, highly educated populace, the nicest people you ever want to meet. No crime, like zero crime.
Is it 1,000 days since there's been a homicide or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like you'd think a guy would come home and find his wife sleeping with another man and shoot him. I mean, nothing. Because everybody knows they're not messing around. I mean, they're not, you're gonna end up in CCOT with those guys. By the way, if you're stealing and embezzling, there was a lot of that going on in the kind of the administration, kind of like Philly when I had to show up with a bag of cash and be like, who gets this so I can get my permit over here? None of that shit, man. People are they're not afraid. They just know that there's going to be consequences if you participate in any of that shenanigans. And look, the proof is in the pudding, man. You go down to that country now, there's cranes everywhere, building everywhere. There's investment coming into the country. They're buying Bitcoin. They're figuring out their energy issues. Like I truly believe that El Salvador is going to be the Singapore of the Western Hemisphere.
Wow.
From what it was 3 years ago. It's just amazing. You go down there, a street that didn't have any lights now has lights and is fully paved. And you're like, wow, that's amazing. So
what's your timeline on that?
On how long?
Singapore of the Western Hemisphere, I think you said.
I'd say within 5 years, it's going to be just a beautiful country. It already is a beautiful country. It's got tons of natural beauty. It's got, I think, 250 miles of pristine coastline. Mm-hmm. If you're a surfer, 6 to 8 foot waves, 85 degrees every single day. And the fact that you could go 3 years ago and buy a piece of land for like $100,000 on the beach and have your own compound. You can't do that now because there's been inflation, because there's been so much investment. And then I get to see, what the plans are for widening highways and putting in infrastructure and internet and all these things. So how long is it going to take? I don't know, Robert, but it's going to take a lot less time than people think. And there's still tons of opportunity. And no matter who replaces President Bukele, the people aren't going back. And he ran out all the corrupt politicians. He ran out all the corrupt judges. He put all the criminals in jail. That's a baseline from which you you can build. If you have any of those things still in place, you can't get there from here. And he's done just an amazing job making sure that the growth can happen in that country. And those people deserve it. And all the diaspora who went to the United States and did well in the United States, they all want to come home and live back in El Salvador. We used to go down the beach and you'd see a house that looked nice, and then you'd get there and it's in disrepair because the wealthy family had left 30 years ago during the Civil War, and it's just sitting there, in disrepair. Well, people are going in now, buying those, fixing them up, making them nice again. So every aspect of their life is getting better and better and better. It's a wonderful thing to see. I just wish I spoke Spanish.
Yeah, I struggle when I'm down there.
My buddy's got a little AI thing that goes right back and forth and speaks pretty quick in Spanish. So I took 6 years of Spanish, but I'm not a language guy. I can conjugate the shit out of a verb for you, but I can't speak. So,
If you're listening to this podcast, you probably get it. You get that Bitcoin changes everything. For those of us that get it, it is important that we use a smart way to buy and hold Bitcoin. My friends at Coinbits, the oldest Bitcoin-only exchange in the United States, have recently pioneered the concept of roundups, which lets you turn your spare change into Bitcoin. Simply connect your payment cards and all your purchases will be rounded up to the nearest dollar, letting you stack sats without even thinking about it. My favorite feature is Coinbits Plus. For $10 a month, you get the best spreads on Bitcoin, which lets power users save on fees and buy even more Bitcoin. All that, plus peer-to-peer payments, target orders, price alerts, and more, means you can do almost anything you want to do with Bitcoin using Coinbits. So go to coinbits.app/breedlove to sign up today. Again, that's coinbits.app, coinbits.app/breedlove. So there's a very special place called the farm at Okefenokee. It's a 1,000-acre regenerative farm community about 45 minutes northwest of Jacksonville, Florida. The farm is a completely off-grid community. It has total food, water, and energy independence. Everything on the farm is 100% organic, and it even features wild boar and bear hunting. The farm at Okefenokee is right next to the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, where you can do camping and canoeing tours. So if you're like me and you're interested in the self-sovereign lifestyle, then you can get your own lot on the farm at Okefenokee if you tell them that I sent you. Once you get a lot, you can build one of 3 custom cabin options. So if you value freedom, self-sovereignty, and living in touch with nature, then join me and my family. We have lot number 21, and we're going to be building a cabin there starting December 2025. To learn more about the farm at Okefenokee, go to okefarm.com and make sure to tell them that I sent you.
You think we're on the point of potential civil unrest here in the States after Iryna and Charlie Kirk and some of the recent events?
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking to each other, and the guy who was willing to talk to other people in a very respectful way and just in the arena of ideas, when they couldn't beat him in that arena, they figured out they'd kill him, right? And again, it's the safety, that poor girl who was stabbed, and then the people who stood around and just watched it.
It's sickening.
It just makes you go, wow, man, we're not safe. And then the court system's a joke. These people were put back out on the streets. I mean, that is what El Salvador was, right? And we seem to be going that direction. And it's disheartening, and a lot of people don't know why. Like, look, the money's bad, right? Everybody's working harder and harder and harder. A lot of people are falling through the system. They have no hope. Young people are super frustrated because they can't afford anything, and it's easy to look out the window instead of look in the mirror and, go, well, what do I got to do to make this right? But it's getting harder and harder to look in the mirror and say, as a young person, what shot do I have? And even the ones who are willing to put in the work, those jobs might be gone through AI. So they're very concerned about that too. Like, why would you sit in school and study to be an accountant right now? you will have no job by definition by the time you graduate if you're a sophomore, right? So it's a tough spot for them. And all of that leads to just angst and social unrest, and it plays itself out in many different ways, and we're seeing it. It's heartbreaking. I know Bitcoin is the solution, and Bitcoin can fix all this. But like you said, what does that transition look like? But I do think that it's probably going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. It's just my gut because of the pace. I'm very frustrated with the pace of adoption. When you sit and you know something for so long, a decade, and you're like, this is the answer. Hey, look over here. Everyone's like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this guy knows.
Yeah, well.
I feel a little disillusioned, and I haven't been doing this as long as you guys have.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it was online or offline, but earlier the word exhausted came up. And it's not so much like I still enjoy having these conversations talking about Bitcoin, but I do feel exhausted studying the problem and talking about the problem and talking about human history and all the darkness. And I was like, Nietzsche said something like, don't look too long into the abyss or it looks back into you. It's like, I'm like tired of looking into that.
Yes.
You know, ready to sort of reorient to the bright orange future more than focusing on the problem so much. But to your earlier point, that's people's number one hang up with getting Bitcoin is they don't see the problem.
Right.
Because they've been in a US dollar regime that's more or less functional for them, right? They can open a bank account and blah, blah, blah. And so, I wanted to ask you earlier when you're on El Salvador, like what's the gun ownership situation down there?
You can own a gun.
You can own guns.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to the presidential palace with my partner Max, and he had his 45 on the seat next to us. I'm like, hey, he's like, yeah. I am not exactly sure about non-citizen gun ownership, but I'm pretty sure it's just a paperwork drill, and you can get it. The other great thing down there is there's no real estate taxes. Once you buy a property, that's it. You own it free and clear.
Wow. You can actually own property there.
Yeah.
Can't even do that in the U.S.
No, you never really own your property in the U.S., right? And I feel like I believe that later in my life, I'll be spending a lot more time with my wife, on board, of course, down there. It's not like I want to sit out what's coming in the United States. It's not in my nature to sit it out, but I do feel very passionate about my family being protected, as I'm sure you guys do, right? That's priority one for me. Like if things go sideways, I love my wife, but no one's going to look to my wife to figure out what to do. They're going to look to the man in the house, and that's me. So if I'm being oversensitive to these things and over prepared, so be it. I thought like Larry Lepard in 2008, I'm like, okay, this is it. I had been studying sound money, was in gold and silver. I'm like, this is it. What are they going to do now? They can't fix this. And I'm like, printed trillions and trillions of dollars and just exacerbated the problem. And I was the crazy guy, right? You're the crazy dude with a generator until the power goes out, and then everybody's your friends.
I got generators in a Faraday bag, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you.
It's always better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. War is look, I don't want to overstate it. I was a support asset to guys on the ground. I was at 25,000 feet, and my biggest goal was take care of the guys on the ground, whatever they need, and don't hurt anybody who doesn't, isn't a combatant. Please, I always say a prayer. Please let this go where I think it's going to go. But getting back to like thinking about killing people, it's a tape recorder in your brain that just plays over and over and over again. And a lot of my friends suffer from PTSD and stuff, and they can't shut it off. So they resort to drinking and they put a gun in their mouth. And these are guys that are the most squared away, good, physically fit, like the most decent people, and with families. And they go out in the backyard and put a gun in their mouth. And I know why. Because that tape recorder of things they've done or were forced to do plays in their back of their mind, and they can't shut it off. And I'm not okay with that, and we don't need to do that. And so it's hard to think about that you were kind of used in that manner, and you were just oblivious to things you feel like you should have known, but it is what it is.
Yeah, appreciate you saying that. I mean, my grandfather, the way he put it was, every person he ever killed, he woke up with them every morning and went to bed with them every night.
Yeah.
And then he turned to the bottle for a long time too. He drank a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's worse as a pilot because it's somewhat sanitized, right? You're detached from
right.
You're out flying a mission in Iraq and something happens. They called them TICs, troops in con. We used to laugh. We would brief a mission, but we all knew, like, the minute you take off, you're going to get an emergency call, troops in contact, and you just fly to where the smoke is. If it was daytime, you could see it. You could see for 100 miles in Iraq. You're like, I know we're going there. I don't even know where they're going to send me, but I know it's in that direction. But when you come back and you're sitting eating Fruit Loops in the commissary, it's just so desensitized. It's way different for the guys on the ground, man. They're up close and personal. They're seeing their buddies die. They're seeing just horror is the word, you know. When we were over there, they strapped a young girl with bombs and a mentally challenged young girl and put her in a market and just detonated it remotely. You see those things. And you know, you just like, there's no humanity to any of it. It's just like, it's awful. And it's kind of, in a way, a little more awful because when you're pulled away from that physical like reality and you're just like sometimes joking about it. Oh man, did you see that? And you really think about it, you go, holy shit, man, what did I do? You know? And guys like Chris Kyle, who was, I don't know if you know Chris Kyle's story, he was a sniper in Iraq. And, you know, those guys, a very good friend of mine is a Navy SEAL Team 6 guy, deployed many, many times. And, you know, he's just like, dude, I can't shut it off. He drinks a lot. He's better now. We went him through neurofeedback, which is an amazing, I don't know if you're familiar with that, Robert, neurofeedback.
No, what is it?
So we've always tried to fix people's like brain issues with chemicals. Your brain is chemical and electrical, right? And giving people drugs and toning it up, toning it down, it just masks the problem. Like, it's almost like your car engine's grinding, so you turn up the radio. Like, hey, it's better. It's like, no, your engine's still grinding. You just can't hear it anymore. Yeah. So neurofeedback is trying to fix people's brains electrically. There's, whether it's an injury, a concussion, or a traumatic event, it's a series of therapies that just tries to wire your brain around the affected area and create a new pathway so that you're not stuck in that loop. And it's highly effective. And it's crazy stuff. Like when I did it because I was feeling like depressed sometimes and it was seasonal. You sit in front of a TV screen and they go, you flew off aircraft carriers? Yeah, I did. Okay, watch this video and fly this airplane into the loop that's going to come up in the distance. I'm like, okay, where's the joystick? They're like, no, just do it with your brain. I'm like, what do you mean? And you're just trying to will this airplane into the loop, and then it goes like that, and you're like, and I go, don't get frustrated. And over time, you're able to do it consistently, and then they change the program. Now you're going to watch TV, and it's very similar to meditating, by the way. And you're going to keep the screen on. And what do you want to watch? I go, I'll watch Breaking Bad. And you're watching the screen, and it starts to gray out, and you go, oh, and you push it out, and the screen comes back. And what you realize is, I'm thinking about something else. And it measures me thinking about something else. And when it senses that, it brings the screen down. So it's forcing me mentally. And they do things with music and video and staring at stuff. And after 10 weeks of this, I did it maybe 4 times a week, sometimes twice a day, because it's not, you can do it cumulatively. It's just, I was like, man, I feel like a totally different person.
Wow. And
by the way, I was good. All of a sudden I was good at math. I'm doing math in my head. I'm like, I've never fucking been able to do that before.
What? Yeah.
And at neurofeedback, so I sent some buddies to do it, and they're feeling like remarkably better.
Wow. I've never heard of that.
And it's not insurance covered. You pay cash. It's not that expensive. Yeah. All kinds of problems, like people with addictions, same thing. Yeah. People with kids who have autism. I remember sitting, I would always talk to people in the waiting room before I would go back and do my therapies. And I would always be really inquisitive. I'd say, if you don't mind me asking, like, why are you here? She goes, well, my daughter was non-communicative. Totally. I could communicate with her through an iPad. And then a little girl, like 16, walks out and says, I love you, Mom, kisses her and goes out the door. I'm like, oh. Wow. Go, your other daughter? She goes, no, her. It was her. Wow. She couldn't talk. She didn't talk to her mom for like 12, 13 years. Now it's amazing.
It's incredible.
And it's poo-pooed through traditional medicine. Like, that's all crazy snake oil stuff. I'm like, well, it freaking fixed me.
There's so much of this energy, frequency, and vibration stuff, medicine. Like even I've worked with a shadow worker recently, and she just like going through your life story, and then you have this cry. Yeah. You do breath work, and then you cry, and then like I'd have my physical symptoms resolving.
Yeah.
Like, how was that connected? I didn't know I was holding on to some childhood trauma in my gut. Stress. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
But there's so much of that. I think we're still coming out of the Newtonian hangover, I call it, or like we still think the world's made of atoms, for instance. Atoms don't exist. Yeah. These are just models, right? These are just models of the world that we've imposed on the world. Reality is vibrational. We've known that since E equals MC squared, but we haven't caught up to the implications of that yet, right? So what you're describing in neural feedback is like you're just retuning the electrical engine or quantum electrical engine or whatever we got going between the ears here. Yep. You're just retuning it with feedback.
Yeah.
And you don't need to do all the chemical bombardment, all the, we used to do lobotomies. Is that crazy?
Oh my gosh.
They go there to just cut a chunk out.
Well, you talk to a doctor and you say, when is this pill going to make me better? They're like, what do you mean? I'm not going to make it better.
Yeah.
You're going to be on that pill forever. By the way, there's all these negative iatrogenic effects from these pills.
Yes.
Your liver's going to be shot, but you probably won't put a gun in your mouth. Like,
trade-offs.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even, it's physical.
Yeah.
Because they mapped my brain before I started. And they said, right here, were you concussed a couple times? I go, yeah, well, talking earlier. Yeah, I was concussed a couple times and I played football, 170-pound guy getting crushed in football. They go, well, there's here, that's an issue. We're going to fix that. And then real deep down in your brain. And they show you compared to other normal brain activity. And it's a color chart. They go, right here, this red area, it's hereditary depression. Your dad probably has it. I go, he does. My dad is seasonal depression. And then they measure my son, because I put my son through neurofeedback, and he goes, and your son has it too. We're going to fix all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and then
incredible.
they take your brain map after.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it's gone.
That's incredible. This also sounds like a lot of overlap with psychedelic therapies. I had a guy on here that was ex-Navy SEAL. I think they were doing
ayahuasca,
psilocybin, and ibogaine. Ibogaine was for addiction treatment, like a lot of these guys that get hooked on alcohol, pills, whatever. Also for PTSD, I think too. It would help them like deal with that recording somehow. You know, they could process it more effectively. Yeah. I was wondering if, I don't know if that's come up on your radar for any of the guys, but like I've heard good things about that for people that have been through war.
Yeah, it has. I had a really good conversation with, when I was involved in a health fitness franchise. We bought a house out in Arizona because we were spending so much money going back and forth. That's why I moved. So we would stay there, and it was a nice house. It was up on a hill. It overlooked Scottsdale. And we would invite the guys from SEAL Team 6 to come stay with us because my buddy knew them and knew the leadership in the teams. They would do halo training, high altitude, low opening training at night in the Barry Goldberg range. And they were just hanging. It was just a place for them to hang out and talk. And I was talking to a guy, Marcus, and I said, man, what do you, he's like, yeah, I lost a lot of friends. They were talking about a friend who just killed himself. And they were going, out of the country to do these therapies in South America and Central America and Mexico. And they seemed to think that was pretty beneficial. But again, that strikes me as chemical.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't understand them.
Yeah,
right? They're almost like their own form of consciousness or something. Specifically, when you talk about things like psilocybin and ibogaine, there are these plants that have been used for countless generations, and we don't understand how they work at all. It's one of the biggest mysteries in medicine is how psychedelics work.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm a big fan. Anything that helps these guys out, I'm a big fan. It is a shame that they have to go to such extreme measures to fix themselves.
Sure.
I think that should be on us as a country to take care of our warriors. But the neurofeedback makes sense to me. Yeah. Having gone through it and been like disagreeable about it. I'm like, are you sure this is going to work? It sounds like bullshit.
Probably lower risk, I would imagine too. That there's
no,
not much risk. Yeah.
No, you just you're watching TV and you're listening to Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Trying to keep the music going.
Yeah.
It's crazy. A friend of mine came, he's the one who told me about it. He's like, dude, you got to try this. It's life-changing. Yeah. He goes, a veil has been lifted. I'm like, all right.
Do they use it for specifically rehabilitation, or do people do this for nootropic purposes, or does it have other uses?
I mean, it has so many uses. There was a guy who had one thing this guy's name's Bob Gurney. He lives in he operates out of a little corner place. If you blinked, you'd go by. It says ADD clinic. So he helps kids with ADD, ADHD. That's what my kids went for. I'm pretty sure my oldest son was vaccine injured, and he's much better now. But any kind of, like I said before, addiction, PTSD, varying degrees of success with autism, which are, in my opinion, related to vaccine injury in many, many cases. But what else? I mean, I'm thinking of people I talk to. Drug addiction, obviously, alcohol addiction. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but any kind of brain disorder that you would otherwise take some kind of chemical to either tamp down or cover up, this seems to have a tremendous benefit.
My spidey sense went off when you said it gave you the ability to do mental math. I was like, oh, could you use this as like a nootropic? So. Well, I'm into the biohacking things. That's why I was asking.
There you go.
Selfishly,
check it out, guys. I'll give you his card, Bob Gurney.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the guy who developed a lot of these protocols. They fly Bob all over the world to talk. He flew to Dubai and was giving these talks. He's an older gentleman. I sent my father to go do it, but it's kind of like, hey, go to the doctor I know. This is the only guy I can vouch for. My dad went and they were doing some other crazy shit. They called it neurofeedback. And my dad resented it. He's like, I don't understand what this is. I'm watching TV. I go, Dad, just trust the process. But, he's older and he just kind of poo-pooed it. And I don't think really gave it a shot. It turns out my father has Parkinson's disease. It was depression is an early indicator of oncoming Parkinson's. But yeah, well, thanks. He's a good man.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you found that treatment.
Yeah. Seems like it's a non-chemical induced way to disrupt the neural pathways that you have going on. Like psilocybin does that. At least in my general understanding, I've heard people like Paul Stamets talk to this. It like changes your neural pathway network in that moment, and you can think about things differently. Like for me personally, my psilocybin journeys, like I almost feel like that's times where like I get to like mentally defragment. I take all of these thoughts and processes and reorganize them in a very condensed period of time. Yeah. Sometimes it's a little intense and painful, but it's typically dose related. I kind of go big when I do it.
I have yet to go down that path, but I'm not opposed to it. But but I feel great. Like there was a fog that was lifted. There's a mental fog that was just gone after I went through this treatment. And the thing that connected me that Bob told me, I was obviously asking a lot of questions. He's like, why is this guy asking me all these questions? He's just another patient. But he's a good man. And he just said, see that thing right there on your brain, that dark red spot that should be dark black? We're just going to go around it. I go, okay, it's electrical. It makes sense. We're just going to reroute your brain. Yeah. And I go, okay, that makes sense to me. And your brain is, in fact, chemical and electrical. And all the money in that perverse health system, which is actually really a sick system, is all the incentives is to give you the pill that's going to fix, quote unquote, but it doesn't fix anything. And it's a shame because people get hooked on that stuff and it's just bad news.
Yeah, I have a lot of family members that use pharmaceuticals, killed my mother. Multiple family members of mine have died from pharmaceuticals that were supposed to help them. That's, what do they say? Patient cured as a customer lost.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's just like war, right? We're in the war business. We're not in the peace business. We're in the cheap food business. We're not in the healthy food business, right? Anything we can do to grind, we got to keep our margins, right? Then I'm starting to read packages now more than ever. Like, can't eat that, can't eat that, can't eat that.
Anything with a label in the U.S.
Yeah, if it's in a box, bag, or a can, it's like, you can't touch that. Yeah. So I feel like I sound real negative and everything, but I'm not at all. I'm actually quite optimistic.
Well, it's actually aware, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it is sad that the world, living in the United States in 2025, I personally can't eat basically any food with a label. Now, I'm also setting my bar super high, right? I just don't want any seed oils or any bullshit. But the sad reality is 99% plus foods with a label have seed oils or some other crap in it you don't want. It's not good for your body. And so it's not negative. I mean, maybe it's negative. So yeah, bad situation, but better to be aware of it than not. Yeah. My wife had me pull up these old photos of me the other day from like when I was 20 years old, like early 20s. back before I knew anything about seed oils, and I'm just pounding whatever Cheetos and
Probably eating a ton too, because you're lifting.
eating a ton.
And, yeah.
I'm young, so I got these big puffy cheeks, but like I was just, there were pictures of me in the summertime, just pink as a shit. Like
You're inflamed.
yeah, I mean, I look swollen and inflamed, my whole body, my face, my everything.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, look at this picture of you when you're 30." I'm like, "It's like a different dude."
Well, and they used to say when you were all red and inflamed, you got good color.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, well, you're actually inflamed and it's killing you.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'd love to have you on Bitcoin Spaces one day. I wanted to ask you because it's the idea of Bitbonds germinated and got refined on Bitcoin Spaces. And the guys at Tidal are now offering STRC, that's those guys, and they got the idea from listening to our spaces. I mean, we have guys like Darkside who ran an ARB desk for 30 years and then bought Bitcoin in 2013 in Spain, behind a coffee shop, and some guy put stuff on a paper and stuff. And these guys, we just constantly refine, what if this, what if that, what if this, from some of the smartest people in the world. We invite people up all the time who just blow us away with what they know and their backgrounds. And it just seems to be this idea factory that, for one reason or another, just came together. It used to be with Fred Krueger.
He's gone off the rails, right?
Yeah, I mean, look,
Is he playing a attention game or what?
Fred's a super smart guy. Fred's background. I think he's an astrophysics. He's a math PhD and everything. Fred likes to tinker with things, so like his foray into Solana, right? And then people were crushed because, like Fred, people are coming here to learn about Bitcoin, and they super respect you, and you're talking about Solana, and it's hard enough to get them kind of dialed in and doing the work and all that other stuff, and then it's like a shiny red ball over here. It's like, man. So that had a little bit of a falling out, and some people wanted to control it, and the whole idea is we're totally decentralized. Like I do Fridays, but I'm on the panel almost every day. I chime in when I can. I'm doing work on the side. Nobody really runs it. It's completely decentralized and open. Open communication is the greatest thing. And if some XRP dude jumps in and starts telling us about whatever, we kind of boot them. We try not to mute anybody. And then there's interlopers, which I am sure, for whatever reason, are on the clock with somebody jumping in to try to craft the narrative that we're all doomers. That's the big thing. We're all doomers. Because we talk about the collapse of the bond markets and the collapse of the Eurodollar system. And
the Bitcoiners are doomers.
Well, the guys who say that, there's real problems in the economy, we'll get these, some people who are former Bitcoiners. I mean, I don't want to name names, but it seems like somehow they're in there to disrupt and kind of sidelining, paint us all, steal our credibility. Like these guys don't know how it works. These guys, you don't understand the economy's great and it can go on forever and this, that, and the other thing. And we're like, we let them talk, but a bit less so now because we don't want that kind of mixed message coming out. If you have something valid to say, it's all good.
If you're a Bitcoiner, you need the Orange Pill app. It's where you can connect with other sovereign individuals locally and globally. It's great for when you travel, to meet local Bitcoiners, to go to Bitcoin meetups, and to find local merchants that accept sats. No distractions, no noise, just real Bitcoiners. So download the Orange Pill app today and find your local Bitcoin tribe. I was criticized so much for talking about US dollar hyperinflation, like 22 forward, I don't know, many years. And every time someone says, oh no, it's going to go on forever or this or that, I was like, show me a history book.
Yeah.
Show me one example of what you say is going to happen in the future.
Right.
Or like it's just worked forever. The paper currency just works forever. I've never seen one. Not one example.
What's so funny how much you have to, this is kind of the elephant, right? There's so much you have to know to truly appreciate Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You need to know, you need to understand not just economics, but you need to understand, free market economics and Austrian economics. Mm-hmm. You also need to understand history, right? Mm-hmm. How did we get here? How did things get perverted? What were we supposed to be and how are we here? Mm-hmm. You need to understand how the mechanizations of the Eurodollar system work and all that. You need to understand, just basic mechanics of how Bitcoin actually works and what proof of work is. And all. It's just a ton of shit.
It is a lot.
And you try to eat that elephant. You go, hey, here you go. Take this orange pill. It's 6 feet tall, but it goes down well. People just shy away from it. It's totally understandable. But to be, I guess the word is super humble and grateful to just be in this community, because it truly is a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And you meet a Bitcoiner, and just like you meet a military dude, there's a 99% chance that's a good dude or a good girl. And you just get along with them. You talk about things. They're super interesting. It creates problems elsewhere in your life, because to your friends and family who aren't Bitcoiners, it's you seem like you're like always, you gotta check out. It's one thing I really respect about Charlie Kirk. God bless him. Sundays were sacrosanct for the family. He unplugged. Everybody's vying for that guy's time. And he just said, nope, I'm keeping the Sabbath holy. I'm not doing anything. You couldn't reach the guy on a Sunday. He was from Scottsdale, which is, that unfortunate, it's just horrible situation. But I mean, what a beautiful, beautiful person, and damn few of them. Yeah.
It looks like his death's inspiring a lot of people to change, though. Seeing a lot of people,
young people,
talking about radical change online.
Yeah, my nieces and nephews are all in college now in various schools. They had vigils, and they all knew who he was. Like I was aware of Charlie. Politically, that's the other thing you got to know. You got to kind of understand politics a little bit. I was aware of Charlie. I was thankful for him. I listened to him. I wasn't like following everything he said. But my nieces and nephews were. The younger generation was. It was resonating with them. They send them off to these indoctrination mills. Parents now, my age, thinking, oh, you got to get into a good school. I'm like, those academic industrial complexes are going to be gone. They'll be like retirement homes one day, because the value proposition has long gone away from going and getting a college degree, unless it's a very specific niche. But secondarily, you're turning your child over to these hard left Marxist, and they don't know, man. They're 18 years old. They're going in seeking knowledge and being infused with just kind of nonsense. Charlie was able to bravely break into that and just say, hey, let's talk. What do you got? If you disagree with me, you get to the head of the line. And he wasn't screaming. He wasn't yelling. I mean, I'm a crazy Irish Catholic dude from Philly. Like I go from 0 to 20 quicker than I like to say. Charlie was never like that, man. He was like, hey, yep, okay. Did you think about this? Have you considered that? What do you know? And people were they were totally disarmed by his reason and logic and persona. And it really resonated with younger kids. And that's why they were crying. My nephew called me saying, everybody's crying. Everybody's crushed. So I really think he was a martyr for Christianity, because I think that they didn't, look, he was a avowed Christian, and he wore it proudly, and he said it, and he didn't shy away from anything, and they killed him for it. But I hope that his death wasn't in vain, and I feel very, very confident and grateful that these younger kids are going to learn from him even more now. Even the ones who didn't know him are going to go, who was this guy? Why is everybody so upset? And dig into the troves of content and his speeches and everything else. And they're gonna figure it out. I'm super bullish on the I don't know what that generation's called now. They're not millennials, Gen Y or whatever they are. Those kids are gonna be okay. It's gonna be a rough ride for a little bit, maybe. They got to figure some stuff out. I also find on Bitcoin Spaces, young kids come up and they're desperate for like a male role model that they can talk to and says, that's bullshit. This is real. They're lying to you about this. And they're like, wow, no one tells me that. And not to say they might not get it. They might not get it at home because, parents have outsourced their kids' education, assuming that it's the same Villanova University that I went to. Well, it's not. And it was bad when I went. It was, I could, in the 80s, I could tell. I'm like, this is kind of bullshit. Now it's that on hyperdrive. So I like that too. Very male. Bitcoin seems to be very male dominated. So we get a lot of young guys who are like, hey, I don't have any money, but I really want to learn about Bitcoin. And What do you recommend I do? And we just have a group of men who just tell their, give the best leadership and guidance they can, and they totally appreciate that. And I think that's super cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
How often are you guys doing those?
Every day from 11:30 to 1:30 Eastern time.
Okay.
But these things, I've been on one with Darkside. We went 13 hours the other day.
Wow.
People cycle in and out from all over the world, right? Like, hey, just woke up
So
here in
you
Australia.
were on for 13.
Yeah.
Committed to the cause, dude.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, dude, I actually like my wife, like I'll go upstairs and sneak in a closet. My wife's like, we're on vacation. You got to promise me. I'm like, yeah, no problem. And they're like, hey, dude, can you spin up a space? We gotta talk. And I'm like, I'm hiding in New Jersey in my closet,
This is what Bitcoin does to you.
It's right. And like I can't let my wife find out that she's like, what are you doing? Watching porn in there? I'm like, no, I'm on Bitcoin space.
You're in El Salvador, doing secret spaces.
Yeah, I'm totally like
Orange pilled.
scatterbrain, man. I like it. I like doing things and then standing back and going, hey, we made that thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Created a lot of jobs. It's not lost on me too. Like, this is how people feed their families. This is how they pay their rent. This is how they make their car payment. It's just cool. It's getting harder and harder to do it in the fiat world, I will tell you. I'm involved in one concept now. I must have looked at 150 concepts that look good initially, and you're like, that's not going to work because of all the pathologies that are going on with the money. And even the one we're in now, which is a bagel concept, I'm like, okay, we got to get in and out of this thing because the bloom is going to come off the rose, and at some point, somebody's not going to be able to afford what we're offering because they just can't. They're making very, very hard decisions. And that Cantillon effect is getting wider and wider and wider. And you're starting to see it as a business person. Like people come and say, I want to be a member. I just can't afford it anymore. I'm deciding whether or not I want to go to the gym or keep my Netflix membership. It's those kind of decisions. And then everybody up here is like, what's wrong? It's all good, man. Killing it. Stock market's up 30-some%. You go, dude, you gotta get out. You got to look around. You got to talk to people and row house guys that I grew up with who are making good money. Good money. They're making 125 grand, but they got 4 kids and they got 2 of them in college, and like they are strapped, and they got the second mortgage out on the house. And by the way, they're also the ones that this message, Bitcoin message, resonates with because they're up against it. And they're like, I need a solution to a problem, and I don't see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
There's pain out there. I've seen it online too. These people running these little solo videos, right? Just, I don't know, soccer mom.
Yeah.
It's like I work full time. My husband works full time. We got 3 kids, 2, 3, 4 kids. We literally can't, we have to decide if we want to pay our insurance or buy groceries when the paycheck comes in.
And
having to defer bills and all this stuff. And it's like, that's not normal. We didn't used to see stuff like that. Maybe it's a social media thing too that's becoming more visible, but.
Well, my dad worked for the electric company, wore a suit every day, drove a Dodge Dart to work every day. I had 4 kids in my family. We lived in a row house. And then as my dad made, I'll never forget my dad and my 2 uncles. They both worked for the electric company, and they were drinking Budweiser beers at a family gathering, which we don't seem to do anymore as a society. We had company over. And my Uncle Tommy, who was like a little step above, he was like a supervisor. And he went up to the bathroom, and my Uncle Bill turns to my dad and goes, Cal, Tommy Hardy, guy's killing it. Made $7 grand last year.
$7 grand.
$7 grand. This is probably late 70s, right? Or mid 70s. And now, and my mom never worked. My mom sang at weddings. She would make like $10 to sing at a wedding or a funeral or something. My mom had a beautiful voice, has a beautiful voice. But think about that. One guy working one job with 4 kids, all going to school. We wanted for nothing. We weren't rich, but we wanted for nothing. It was the greatest childhood. 1,000 kids playing in the street. I have a picture from when I was growing up, and it's from the top of our street. Our street was really long. There's they're all in Catholic school uniforms, all outside playing, skipping rope, playing tag, playing baseball. And as far as you can see, it's kids playing out in the street.
Wow.
Do you see that anymore in America? I don't.
It's beautiful.
It was a beautiful, I just hope we can get back to that. Like we're just so detached from each other. We're on the device, myself included, all the time. We don't have people over anymore. We don't belong to clubs. We don't get together for Sunday dinners. It's just nothing. Like, we've just become these solo kind of isolated people, and it's not how we're meant to be. It's not how we're wired. So if we can get back to that, and Bitcoin helps us get back to that, man, I'm all for it. I'm here for the revolution. I was here for number go up early, and now I'm here for the revolution. And it's just, I'm just grateful is the only word I can say.
Man, I'm so with you there.
Yeah.
It's a mic drop.
Yeah.
All right.
Fuck, that was really good.
I thought we were going to talk.
I'm jealous of your childhood. I think like that idea of just all the kids playing in the street and like that was it. Like you go, fuck, man.
Well, we were latchkey, right? Like I remember my mom saying,
Take your mic back here.
get out of the house.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we mic dropped. I'm sorry.
Oh no! Well, it's a mic drop moment. Just your diatribe over there. But
So how are things different a little bit? My mom would just kick us out of the house. It's like, you kids get out of the house. I would go and play on the railroad and build a fort and go down the creek and put firecrackers in crayfish's craw. I mean, had rock fights, but we figured shit out. We have this experience where we just learned on the fly. And we came home, everybody says this, when the lights came on. Well, it was truth. We had to entertain ourselves all day long. My mom literally and my parents had almost no idea where I was. I might come back every now and again with a bloody eye because somebody hit me with a rock in the head and we figured it out. We're not letting our kids do that anymore. We're so paranoid that there's bad actors out there. And my kids we live in a gated community in Scottsdale. And, you know, my wife was concerned that they were going outside the gate and on their bike to ride up to the CVS. But I'm like, let them go. If they don't come back, it's social Darwinism. I didn't really say that, but I want them to toughen them up because you're not helping your kids if you surround them and protect them to a crazy degree, and then at 18 you send them off to college where they don't know how to do shit.
Totally unprepared.
Totally unprepared. And then they say so. And when they come in and they feel entitled and all this other stuff, the things we criticize this younger generation for, I'm like, yeah, we did that. We did that. That's us.
You know, I've noticed, and I don't know if this is real or not, but I don't see kids with casts. Like, and I remember being in school, like there was always somebody with a cast on their arm. Yeah, broken arm. Like, I think there's less of that today. I wonder if there's statistics around that.
Well, if you go and you build you get a tree and you put a big rope over it and then you put a board on it and then you fly out over the lake, and when it's filled with rocks, you're going to break a couple. You're going to break a couple bones. But that's how you learn stuff, man. We would go on explorations and go into other townships and just, yeah. I want to get back to that because kids just go. Just get out of the house. Go be kids.
Yeah, so I struggle. I got a 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old daughter, and it's like I don't want her to hurt herself. But that's part of the learning process.
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that?
it's the most anxiety. I didn't know I could feel anxiety until I saw my daughter like bump her head on the corner of a desk.
Yeah.
And it was the most, I was like, oh, just like,
Rubber things to put them on the corners.
Yeah, I
of the
didn't even
desk.
know I could have that in my body. It was like the first time I actually felt an anxiety spike.
Yeah. I remember sticking my finger in a socket as a kid and being like, I won't do that again. Now it's like, let's get these plastic things and put them in all the
I
outlets.
fell off a 3-story roof when I was in. It was like knocked the wind out of me. I was laid there for 30 minutes or something.
we used to go and we'd take our bikes and we had this thing called the Baja. So we dug out like these trenches. We made these ramps and we ride our dirt bikes and stuff. And we used to lay down kids and jump over them with the bike. And like, if you were the last kid, it was typically like the fat kid who didn't know anything. It's like, he'd land right on him. He's like, oh man, raise the ramp a little bit. Evel Knievel and all that shit. But it was awesome, man. We just, we'd go up there, we'd just explore, we'd find the older kid's fort, had porn in it. We go, oh man, look at that.
Oh man.
But it was just a life experience of craziness. And again, like, I just feel like it made you a competent person and an experienced person, robbing kids of that experience, figuring shit out on their own. And it all comes from a position of love, right? But when that child comes, when you have your kids and they put them in your arm, like, I am never going to let anything bad happen to you, ever. And while noble, you gotta temper that with, hey man, let them go figure it out.
Someone told me that parenting is one long process of letting go.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
It goes so fast too. My kids are getting big now, and I travel a lot, and I'm like, man, I gotta dial it back a bit because it's like everyone says it goes so quick, and now it's like, oh man, it is quick. My oldest is going to be in high school soon, and then he's going to be whatever. I don't think he's going to college as we talked about, but he's going to be gone. He's going to be independent, and you never get that back. So you gotta live for those days.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
I mean, I'm sure I could come up with a bunch. I could talk with this guy all day long, but I feel like we covered a lot of ground.
Bitcoin Alpha?
No, but I'm unaware of it. I should consider so.
You've still got a couple tickets. I want to go because I see people I don't get to see in person. It's really something else. I mean, you guys get to see people all the time because you're going to probably a lot of events and stuff, but for the typical Bitcoiner who sits on Spaces all day and looks at an avatar, to actually go and commune and have fun with people you share. By the way, you share some of your deepest thoughts with these people. It's almost bizarre. You're like, I'm talking to 10,000 people, most of whom I don't know, who are just listening in the bottom, sharing like all manner of stuff. It's cool, but then when you get to go see them in person, that's what really is awesome.
What is Bitcoin Alpha?
It's basically it's a get together. It's a Satoshi Roundtable style out in Santa Monica, California.
Okay.
Red Kruger put on the first one. It was a bunch of us, but
I was there last year.
yeah, you and I gave a talk about what else? What did we talk about?
Yeah, we were talking about El Salvador.
we were gonna
Yeah.
go down there and plant a flag. So, and then you just talk about certain different topics. A speaker will come up and not just talk at. It's a community discussion. So we'll raise a couple points and then we'll just start just an open forum about whatever the topic is. And then after an hour, you switch to another one. And there's 4 going on at one time all day. And then you have a dinner, and then you hang out and have a couple drinks and meet the people you really like. And it's some of the smartest people in Bitcoin are coming there. And it's
What's the date?
It's October 16th and 17th in Santa Monica.
Yeah, I can't make it. I got a little boy due. Just about that time frame.
These priorities, man, right? That's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Pumped.
I'll bet. I got 2 boys and a little girl that we adopted who's just like so sweet. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. But yeah, those little lives they're precious, man.
Yep.
So
but
incredible.
I did enjoy the like unconference style instead of it being like a panel or like a speaker and everybody's on the stage. It's like everybody is involved.
Yeah. It's
pretty cool.
It's the difference between talked with and talked at. Talked at gets old. It's like, okay, I got it. I mean, it's got its place and everything, but that is a cool style.
Yeah.
And most of the best part about it is stuff that happens outside all of that anyway, That's where I met Jason Lowry.
Yep.
He was there last year. He was sitting there. No one knew who he was. I'm like, I knew him from your podcast. And they were talking. I go, hey, Jason, can you talk? He's like, I don't know if I can. I go, dude, get in here.
Then the whole room, it all turned into, at one point, everybody was circled around him.
And then I was supposed to speak about, who knows, some bullshit. And I go, no, Jason, can you talk about software? And then he did. And it was packed house. Everybody wanted to hear what he had to say. And a lot of people were trying to throw stones at it. But that's been Jason's experience. But I think... I think he's a little, he's like, dude, I just put a wrapper on my thesis and just put it out there. It's not like if I had to do it over again, I would be a little different in how I said it. I go, dude, your interview with him was fantastic because that's another one of the great interview series where it really makes you think about
big time
where we're headed, and that we've reached the limits of that kinetic power if we want to survive as a species. So now it's going to go down to the hash rate and that's where the battles are going to be waged.
Yeah, he's a special guy, man. The thesis completely blew my mind. Like, I know lots of people throw stones. That seems to be like it's almost like when you join a fraternity in college, you get hazed.
Yeah.
Like you just go through this thing and you join Bitcoin, like they're going to throw stones at you about something.
Yeah. But some don't stop throwing stones. At some point, you get your pledge pin and your
professional stone throwers. That's all they do. But
well, that's that bifurcation I was talking about. There's a lot. There's not a lot. There's some people in Bitcoin who are like, all I care about is getting rich and making number go up. And it's like, all right, well, that's cool. But you don't see all this other stuff that's going to be affected by Bitcoin. You don't see all these problems we have, and that at the root layer of all of that stuff is the money, and you're not even concerned with that. And
I wouldn't even call that first cohort Bitcoiners. people that are just here to get rich and have number go up. That's not a Bitcoiner.
No.
That's someone that's just
an investor,
a speculator or whatever.
Yeah, it's way more.
I mean, when I use the term Bitcoin, I'm invoking all the things you said of the second cohort, right? People that actually care, they want to improve their lives, they want to leave a better world for their children. You know, the people that are taking inventory of themselves, like, oh, here's all the things I'm bad at, here's all the things I'm good at. Let me improve this list and take some stuff off this list.
Yeah.
Like those are the Bitcoiners when I try to speak. Well, I guess there's some of these weirdos on Twitter too that are not so sure if they're doing that, but they just talk shit.
You know what? I just like my frustration level when I said I was frustrated earlier is I want to be around and active when we get to the next epoch, right? And because we're going to be in a position to do, if we want to, some pretty cool things and help kind of craft what that next system might look like. Because we're going to have means to do it, and I think we're wired that way to a large extent. Most Bitcoiners, so I want to get there. I'm like super eager to just the quickening and be around to do it. Who knows? But I think it's going to come faster than people think. I really think that now, like with this companies, treasury companies, sovereign adoption. Kind of working working the yeast into the mix. I think that it could go rather quickly, and that's exciting. It's also filled with potential hazards, so we've got to be very vigilant that we are disagreeable to a point. Just making sure that we don't F this thing up.
Yeah,
it's like the G forces.
Yeah.
You hold on tight.
G-force. That's how my neck and my shoulder. That's exosomes are another story in business I'm involved in, but I was like all jammed up. And just the advances in medicine that are coming are just wild. Exosomes are what are inside a stem cell, and if you inject it rebuilds tissue and sinew and everything.
That's part of the supplement biohacking stuff. We're drinking exosomes. I think it's exosomes. Is that the raw material for DNA and RNA?
No, it's exosomes are what are inside of a cell. So inside of a cell.
This is stem cells.
Yeah, stem cells are tumorigenic potentially.
Yeah.
Exosomes, which actually do the work, it's repair or grow. They have two, or both, are what are inside of a stem cell. And exosomes are non-tumorigenic. So I got all my buddies who are pilots who had all the same injuries I did from pulling G's and looking over your shoulder and all that stuff. Shoulders, elbows, wrists typically were just fried, and it regrows sinew and cartilage and everything. And I feel like I could like bench pressing wise, I'm back in the gym. I used to be able to, when you're younger, you can bench press a lot, but even like what's 225, I could do that for like 10, no problem. But I couldn't do it because my shoulders at the joint level were just so fried. Now I'm doing it at 58 years old in the gym, banging out 12 225s. I'm like, yeah, man.
Wow.
I just feel awesome. And it's another thing that I just, whenever anybody, I'm like, you don't have to live like that. We can fix that. But again, it's in the gray market. It's not, it's got to go through FDA approval. So that the whole machine is preventing people from getting better.
The American machine specifically. I have a buddy that just went to Costa Rica to do that. Not specifically that, but he did a stem cell treatment plus a plasma filtration, something. I don't know. They pull all your plasma out and clean it up and put it back in.
Yeah, it's called PRP, protein-rich plasma injection.
Yeah, I don't. It might not be specifically that, but it's something along those lines. And he had phenomenal success. Yeah. But it's expensive.
It shouldn't be. So with PRP, it's they take your blood, they spin it, they take out the plasma, and then they inject it into your joints. When you're young, your blood's flowing through your whole body, fixing and repairing. A kid gets a cut, it's fixed in like 3 days. Where you get a cut, and it's like, I still got this cut from 2 weeks ago. It's all about blood flow and your cells just replenishing themselves. But as you get older, that goes away, and then you step off a curb one day and you tear your ACL. You're like, oh, what the hell happened? Well, we're just tricking the system. It's all biological material. But the problem with PRP that's extracted from you is my PRP, my platelets are 58 years old. So we figured out a way to lyophilize from afterbirth plasma and then inject it in there. Now that reduces inflammation and all kinds of other good stuff. It doesn't really grow sinew, but the exosomes grow sinew. It takes months, but it just starts repairing and growing. Your body's sending out signal, help me, I'm hurt. Right in there, it does it. It's amazing. And hopefully RFK is going to passed right to. I mean, he's got his hands full now, but no, he's a believer. He's a patient, not of ours, but he's gotten these treatments before, and hopefully he clears the slate and says, you know what, screw this FDA approval stuff. There's no negative iatrogenic effects. The worst possible thing that can happen is it doesn't work. You could, right? So what's the harm in that? Let's try it. And I've never seen it not work, like never. So, and we've done hundreds, thousands of people. So
People use that for autoimmune conditions as well?
there are, so it's kind of like the company I was with for a while. I'm no longer with them for reasons that don't matter, but there's so many uses. Just think of it. It's biological material that we're made of, right?
Right.
So
Just the raw
all the
materials.
things that we can fix, from skin conditions to battlefield wounds. It's an antiseptic when no other antiseptic will work. Like in a battlefield wound, guy gets his arm blown off. He just makes sure he, migraine headaches. So rosacea, melasma that women have. All these things are just inflammation in the body. It's an anti-inflammatory, brings all that stuff down and then gets it under control. Bone regrowth. They can grow these high, it's called highly pluripotent exosomes. They can turn into almost anything. They can turn into skin, they can turn into bone, they can turn into marrow, they can turn into sinew. It's whatever is needed. There's some things they can turn into, like a heart muscle.
It's like biological money.
It is biological money. But again, it's billions of dollars to get FDA approved. So what are the odds that, even if you had a patent on it, you're just not going to get through that gauntlet. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know how we got off. Sorry about
More reason to leave the U.S.
that. Yeah, but look, I love being here. All my family and friends are here. But like I said, and it's better to be 3 years too early than 3 seconds too late.
Yeah. Warrior and a gardener. Warrior
sir.
in a garden rather than a gardener in a war.
Sir.
Any closing words of wisdom, or please let people know where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you guys. I was really humbled that you would even
thank
want
you.
to, like, what the heck they want to talk to me?
I knew this would happen.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it turns out okay. Hopefully I wasn't
No, it's been
rambling.
fantastic.
Thank you. I'm just, I always say it on Spaces, I'm super grateful to be here. And I think gratitude is the key to happiness. If you've ever met a person who's grateful for no matter how much or how little they have, they're freaking happy. So I'm super grateful for Bitcoin, for you guys and everything you do. I've learned so much from your podcasts. I can't even tell you. There was a time where it was so starved for information. And then when you came on the scene and then you joined,
This guy,
dude, it's like information, you can't get enough. And it's just, it's enabling people to come to Bitcoin quicker, which is the goal. So just thanks for what you do. And
Love to hear that.
you guys are awesome. Thank you.
yeah, pumped to be here.
Thank you. Where can people find you about your spaces and stuff? on the
Oh,
internet?
so we're on Spaces. So if you go to Bitcoin Today, or if you follow me, and
What's your handle?
Puncher522. So just like, you don't even have to follow me. Just go to my page. And when we're on, you'll see us glowing, and you can click on my picture and you can join the space, or you can find it. We send it out, and just jump in, and you can raise your hand and ask questions, and no dumb questions. Just don't come on and shitcoin, and don't come on and tell me how great the system is. That's all I ask.
Reasonable stuff.
Yeah, all reasonable stuff.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thanks,
That was great.
guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
See ya.
man.
We lock our doors, we encrypt our hard drives, and we use strong passwords. But most people leave one thing wide open: their phone line. SIM swap attacks are one of the fastest growing methods of digital theft. In minutes, a hacker can clone your accounts, reset your passwords, and drain your life. Unfortunately, this is not science fiction. It happens every single day. Efani is the only mobile service protection designed exclusively to protect you from SIM swap attacks. Efani offers military-grade encryption on their product and offers up to $5 million of SIM swap insurance. And to date, there have been exactly 0 SIM swaps on any of Efani's over 50,000 protected accounts. So you don't need to live in fear, you just need to protect your weakest link. Go to Efani.com/breedlove to secure your phone line today. Again, that's Efani, EFANI.com/breedlove. For the past 25 years, I've been reading roughly one book per week. Almost entirely difficult nonfiction books, the kind that really shift your thinking. Books on physics, money, power, psychology, spirituality, and philosophy. The real stuff. But I get it. Most people don't have time to read 50 books per year. So I hand-selected my favorite nonfiction books and distilled each one of them into a course that you can take in 50 to 100 times faster than it would take you to read the entire book. Each course gives you the key insights, mental models, and frameworks that matter. We launched with 15 book courses, and we are building toward a library of 100 by the end of year 1. So if you are a seeker of truth, wisdom, and personal growth, then my book course is for you. To sign up, go to course.breedlove.io. Again, that's course.breedlove.io. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.